gap wasn't that big. I think in certain parts of the game it proved it was that big. Obviously Rangers got a player sent off, but there were parts of the games when Rangers were okay. The first 20 minutes they were okay, and then they lost the goal and the heads went down. Second half they were in the game for 15 minutes, and it's all about goals, and I think it'll be the same tomorrow. I think what either team gets the goals will be the team obviously that gets the confidence from getting that first goal and going and winning the game. I still think there is a gap there. I mean, Rangers have improved. They've won some good games, but not against any great opposition. You know, Aberdeen beat them okay. It was a late goal. Good result going up to Inverness, but these teams aren't in the same calibre as Celtic. So he'll have to come up with a plan that stops the Celtic players that hurt them the last time. And the players that hurt them the last time were Sinclair, Forrest and Dumbelly. And these are the ones he'll have to come up with some kind of plan to stop them from playing as Borussia did midweek.
Yeah, but there's a level up here because they're talking about the pitch again. The pitch is digging up the day with the semi-final. If you watched it, it was digging up in places. And, I mean, are they ever going to get this right? You know, because it's going to be a great leveller to Rangers. Because if they are ahead, then you know, bobbly pitch. It's not exactly what Celtic want. I know both teams have got to play in it, but the semi-final or the last time, I think that's what levelled out for the two of them.
Well, can I ask you something? And I get all three of you on this. And I mean, I'm not knocking your opinion on that, Micah, because quite simply, a lot of people look and say, you know, because of the modern game, they want to play in a good pitch. But really, I mean, it's a load of nonsense, guys. You guys are professional footballers. You've played on it every week. If I want to show you the Newcastle against Hereford, Ronnie Radford from about 35 yards, it was a cow field. Now listen, as Davy Provan once said to me, if you're a good player, you can play in any surface, Gordon Smith. So let's have no more nonsense about the pitch. The best team wins because the best players play on the day.
Yeah, that is, but they're getting so used to nowadays playing on good pitches. They do complain about it. Pitches that we would have considered good, they don't think so anymore. And down in England, down in the Premiership, you see pitches that are perfect nearly all the season round because they even change them during the season. So I know what you're saying, but they will make an excuse of it. But see, in terms of this game, I think that the big factor, there's some question marks here just regarding what the Rangers lineup would be is significant here. What the tactics are, because I think they got it wrong in the 5-1 game. Although, as Ruffy said, there were certain parts of the game Rangers weren't that far behind, and there's no doubt about it. The game finished with Rangers having no centre backs, and that made a difference to the game too. Key goals were scored at that stage when Rangers had already gone as a team in result. But it depends. I think they maybe have a bit more energy in their team now, because obviously you've got players who aren't available for Rangers.
Centre-half's not available, is he?
Well, I don't know if he's available. Crancher's out, obviously. Joey Barton's not going to be there. So I think in terms of he'll have a bit more youth in the midfield, and in that respect, then a bit more mobility and work rate, I think. And that was one of the things that they lacked against Celtic in the last game. So if that comes in, Rangers should be stronger. And then they've got to make sure they're tactically correct, which I think is a case of being more defensively set up than they would be in the previous game, because Celtic have got some really good attacking players, and if Rangers don't cope with that, then they will be vulnerable. So I think that these are big factors, I think, for me to see. Otherwise, I would definitely make Celtic favourites for the game. I think Celtic will win the game, but it's a question of how Rangers then approach it, and if they get the first goal and they're doing things tactically well, These games can change, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's Rangers manager Mark Warburton's take on the big game.
It's a big fixture. It's one of the biggest derbies in world football. So, very aware of the significance of the game for the fans, for the global fan base. Everyone's associated with the club, so no, I'm aware of that. What we have to do is recognise how well we prepare, keep trying to improve every game, day in, day out. And that's what we have been doing over the last few weeks.
Okay, preparation is everything, Ruffy, and Mark Warburton has mentioned some of the players had a wee heated debate in midweek. Nobody's been sent home, and there's nobody who's going to be released from their contract after that heated debate, Ruffy. But sometimes you need that kind of energy, that edge to a team to try and get the best out of them for the big game.
Yeah, I think you do. I have to admit, I don't get why they would have a heated debate. You know, they've been winning their games. You know, obviously they're going into a big game at the weekend. I don't understand why it would have got heated. I'd love to have known.
There's a lot of players. I think there's a lot of players. There's a professional. There's a lot of players no pulling. There's a lot of players no pulling the rate. And if it's a heated, they'll be telling them that. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're still going into a big game like against Celtic. Everyone's got to. They've all got to be in their best tomorrow.
I think you know that, but you don't have to have a big fight
well,
in the dressing room.
I think sometimes, sometimes you've got to say to players,
Yeah, is that down to the mentality of maybe what was in the Thistle dressing room at the time, Ruffy? You won the League Cup in '71. You could have gone on and won everything else, but you were so laid back about it. Didn't want to have a fight, and in the end, you didn't win anything for
I just don't get a team who supposedly are on a good run and they're playing well and win the last 4 games, and then you're in the dressing room and you start talking about the Celtic game, then you have a fiery debate.
I'm quite surprised.
You just said
I think it's
that
great.
you think okay, they've won the last couple of games, but this is a totally different game for them. They've been hammered 5-1 by Celtic, and they need to work out a way to try.
You don't go to the past, you look to the future.
But we used to win every game. And Tommy Burns and Mick McCarthy were each other's throat, God rest them. But they were totally
but not
psyched up
during the game.
Yeah, all the time.
I don't believe that for a minute. During the game, I was in
the changing room.
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't cope. I wouldn't. If I was in a dressing room 2 or 3 days before a big semi-final, I can't get my head around. Why is he telling them?
Why is he telling us? I don't understand that. I don't know why Matt Warburton has to come out and say that.
I know that's different. That's different.
Is he making a point of saying as if to say, well, when Joey Barton was here, it was also a worse type of row, and that's why he's out the door. We can still have these kind of debates and these heated discussions without MD. That happening to MD, is that more or less something to do with the Barton situation? I wonder if it is.
Heated discussion, it's not personal, Peter. They say a few things and keep it. They're supposed to keep it in the dressing room. As you say, the manager shouldn't have said it.
We're all susceptible to spin and counter spin ahead of an Old Firm match. I mean, I could actually over the last 20 years, I think, I can remember on many an occasion working on Scott Sport for STV or Extra Time as it used to be, and you could actually set your clock by thinking, okay, the game's tomorrow. I wonder what the back page headline is, which is to try and annoy one side or the other. Honestly, that's what it used to be. Or I wonder if the chairman's going to come out with, the king of spin from either side, or the manager comes out and tries to crank up the heat with a line just to annoy people. I mean, that's the way it goes in these games. The problem that Rangers have to overcome, Ruffy, is they've been hammered 5-1 by Celtic. They now need to work out a way where the manager, I think, Ruffy, has to change the way he plays them.
The point I'm trying to make, if I'm sitting in the Celtic dressing room and I'm reading that, I'm going, at each other. They still can't get out of the 5-1 game. What chance have they got in this game if they're still arguing that it's something that happened 4 weeks ago? That's what I would be saying. I'd be spinning it round to say, look, they're in turmoil.
Does it work that way, Gordon? I mean, I just think that's the point.
So.
At the end of the day, I couldn't care if a manager said they're all fighting. It's how you play on the day.
Well, the only thing about that would be, if Ruffy's saying that, is the big problem you'd have as a Celtic manager say, I don't want my team to be overconfident here. Because you've got to go into every Old Firm game, you have to get into it, regardless of whether you're made favourites or you're not. You have to, that you're going to get a hard 90 minutes and it's going to be intense.
I think it could be maybe covering up the basic. I think I get told Wilson could be out, and that means that the boy Hill's going to come in, and he's not got any pace, Peter. He has not got the pace to match Dembele, Griffiths or Sinclair. I mean, they'll all be running by him because I think that might be something that they're spinning just to try and keep it reflection away for that.
Well, we've heard from Mark Warburton. Let's hear from Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Brendan Rodgers, obviously, I think off the back of... Well, he's not speaking to us, that's the first thing I've noticed. Brendan Rodgers, clearly off the back of that defeat, and again, if we're talking about defeats and psychologically, how you bounce back from it, they lost 2-0 to Borussia Mönchengladbach. It could have been more in my eyes. I thought they were outplayed.
I thought in the first couple of minutes you seen the intentions of the German team, because they were different class. They were absolutely different class. They were playing 1-2s through the defence. Too easy for what I think. But it was just, I like the manager coming out and saying, we get beat by a better team, let's move on. And I think that's the right way to do it. If you're a manager, sometimes you just got to put your hands up and say, we get beat by a better team, and that's Barcelona whipped them.
Exactly. A lot of people thought Borussia Mönchengladbach were going to be an easier game than what they were. I'd seen them. I thought them in the 2 games they lost, and they were good. They're a good team.
They thought they would have been closer.
That was without some of their best players, wasn't it?
I thought with all due respect, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I mean, I thought Celtic were going to win. I think you mentioned it. I think you mentioned it. Everybody in their granny was talking about Celtic winning this one and 4 points being enough. So they didn't win it, and even with 4 players out, Borussia Mönchengladbach still looked far too good good technically for them. Here's, and I'm delighted to say, yep, can we go to him? Yeah, we can. Let's hear what Brendan Rodgers has to say.
We look into this season, and our first game against them this season, we were very, very good. You know, they've got some good players, so we respect that. But our focus will be very much on ourselves and ensuring that we can bring our A game into it. And if we can do that, then we, as we've seen earlier in the season, we've a great chance to win.
Well, I think the general consensus here, Robbie, is if Celtic play their A game and they've got the squad and the backup at their disposal, then there's only going to be one winner.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree that Celtic have got more winners on their side than what Rangers have. But again, you need to bring that A game to the park. We saw it in the last semi-final. Okay, it was Ronnie Delia's team, but I think everybody, didn't matter whether Ronnie Delia was in charge or not, everybody thought Celtic were going to win that game handsomely. And if you don't turn up, then that's the kind of results that happen. But I still think, and these guys have played in these games, I haven't, first goal is so important. First goal can possibly be nearly all the time be a match winner. And in this particular game, I think if Rangers get it, they're going to be as high as kites. And if Celtic get it, they'll presume that they'll then go on and win the game.
Yep. Would you have any hesitation in throwing in a Kolo Toure after his mistakes in midweek, Gordon?
I think they'll leave him out. I would have hesitation about it because I think the other two centre-halves they've got are pretty capable. So I think Toure was I thought that was poor for somebody with that level of experience and ability and all that sort of thing. He didn't have the best of games. So I wonder whether maybe he was brought in specifically for that game and they can do without him now.
No, I don't think so. I think he covered Sviatchenko the other night so much. I think Sviatchenko was off his game, and I think Toure covered him so much. And the boy's 34, but there's no excuses to put his hands up for the two mistakes. But I think the way he's played, I think you've got to give him a bit of leeway. And if he's fit tomorrow, I think he'll play.
Is Simonovic fit as well, though? Is he?
He was on the bench.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting after the game on the TV. I thought it was interesting. Roy Keane's, comments on Toure, saying he was not particularly a tragedy waiting to happen. I mean, unless I've missed something when he was at Liverpool or wherever he was, he's that kind of player that he will be fantastic and then he will make mistakes.
Yep, well, who are we to? And again, I think it's all about levels. I mean, I like Roy Keane as a pundit, and I certainly don't like, one media company to the next starting to annihilate certain pundits, because I think that's negative way to look at football. Roy Keane, I think what it does come into as a category is levels. Yeah. When you play Roy Keane's level, there is, there's that expectation from Kolo Toure and the expectation at Celtic. I think it's far lower. He made the mistakes. He held his hand up fine and dandy. I tend to agree with you, Maka. I get the feeling that he might stick with him on that, because it would be a huge negative message if he takes him out.
If he's fit, he'll play him. Honestly, but he's got a problem with his calf or something. So he told me to take a week off. Who would you?
Days like this you miss. There's days like this you miss Derry Johnson, because I haven't heard that type of gag since DJ used to roll them out for me. Now, who would you play? You talked about team selection, Gordon. We'll obviously start to look at the other games that are going to take place later today. But who would you play, Maka, from a Celtic perspective? Would you play with two strikers, or do you think he's?
I think he might not start that way, but the other night, let's be honest, a lot of players didn't play well. Like Forrest didn't play well, Dembele didn't play well. There was players that could have done better. In the midfield, I thought could have played. They weren't on their A game, so I think that will stay. I think Jamesy Forrest has been on fire, but I think when Roberts came on, I thought he was outstanding when he came on.
It's strange you mentioned that, Maka. Can I just take issue with you on the fact that I think James Forrest was more occupied with Oscar Wendt and trying to track him more than inflicting any damage.
I understand that, but when he's going forward, and when you see Jamesy Forrest doing that with his hands and shouting at the referee, you know he's not in his game. Yeah. So he normally just gets the ball, goes down and gets the ball over now, which he didn't do the other night. I know it was hard. I understand that. I don't know if he'll play the two. I think Griffiths has been shouting. Griffiths wanting to play the two, he's unleashed the two of us and all that. Yeah, it'd be great. I think it'd be great. But as a manager, you're going to have to say, look, we've got pace in midfield. We don't need the two at the moment. See, when Ronnie didn't play two, there was no pace in midfield. So now he's got Sinclair, he's got Forrest on fire again. There's pace in there, and I think he'll stick with. He'll either play Griffiths on his own or play Dembele on his own. I think he'll play the one.
Okay, Gordon, from a Rangers perspective.
Well, I'm going to agree with Frank. I think that he'll not change the system. I don't think he'll play Griffiths. I think he'll stick to the system that's worked well for them, because he gets a lot of attacking options from that system. They're scoring a lot of goals. From Rangers' point of view, I think that the problem they might have is centre back if Wilson's not available. But the team in the midfield, I think it'd be good from Rangers' point of view. Windass is available, is fit, a young player like him. Halliday and Holt probably as the three midfield players, and then you've got Vicorn. You've got Miller and Mackay as a front three sort of thing, and with Waghorn and obviously Miller and Mackay getting back a bit deeper as well and supporting the fullbacks, because the fullbacks can't be, in this game, they can't be bursting forward all the time, because that leaves space, leaves the centre backs exposed. So Rangers need to play a tight system, I think. And more or less in the early part of the game, I think they've got to look to be catching Celtic on the counter attack.
But the boy Mackay, he's not been playing. He's a bit like the Danish boy with Ronnie. You know, it was he didn't. He played him all the time, and you're thinking Mackay's not playing well, but he's not dropping them out of the team. And there's other players.
In the games I've seen, Frank, he's been the one that's been creating. He's been creating the goals.
I'm just for Rangers supporters.
He's been
Rangers supporters have been saying, even on the radios. I mean.
No, the thing is, Ruffy, I think, we could argue about who's in for him, who's out for him, who's not doing something, who's doing something. I think you're judged in the higher calibre games. The amount of players, including you guys who've all played at the top level, the amount of players who have mentioned to me in Celtic Rangers matches, if you're a good player, you thrive on that game. You go and show what you can do, Rocky. So, if Barry Mackay wants to convince anybody that he's worth even a starting place in the Scotland lineup, then he's got to go there and do, to be fair to the young lad, what he did in the semi-final, which is hit one from 30 yards or pick a pass or do something on that stage against better players. Yeah,
you're exactly right, Peter. But I think in this particular game, as you know, that we've already touched on Forrest and Sinclair, going forward. If they're up against Mackay, who's going to obviously have to track back, that's not his game. You want him in the other third, the other half of the part. You don't want him going back the way, chasing whoever it is, Tierney, Sinclair or Forrest, whatever side they're playing on. And that's going to, as it did with Forrest the other night, curtail what he's good at. But I just think, and again, these guys are no better than me. It depends how you enhance this game and how you start the game. If you get a pass early on, I would think if you go to make a pass and somebody intercepts it and they go up the park, you're knocked out of that game for the next 10, 15 minutes, because every pass you're going to get, that's going to be in the back of your mind. So I think it's important you start again positively, whether it's a good run, whether it's going by a couple of people, whether it's having a shot on target, whether it's having a save. And that's the things that catapult you into having a good game in these games.
The thing with these games is not to think too much.
Says Maka, whose debut lasted 16 minutes.
14.
I gave you 2 minutes anyway. 2 minutes to get off, Maka. After the break, we will hear from Scott Brown, Lee Wallace, and a couple of our guests this week have all been offering their opinion on the game. Ian Durrant and John Hartson on the way, and then we'll switch our attention back to Firhill for team news there, predictions on the key games right across all the divisions. We will talk about Neil Lennon's comments this week. It's amazing how 3 or 4 months in the life of a manager can be transformed. Alan Stubbs sacked after 14 games in charge at Rotherham. Neil Lennon says that football has lost its soul. You can give us your view on that at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny will assess in more detail the Old Firm match, and we'll start to look at the big kick-off for 3 o'clock for the matches today. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny are with me here in the studio. Of course, the Old Firm match takes place tomorrow, 2:15 kick-off. We'll hear from Scott Brown, Lee Wallace, John Hartson and Ian Durant on the way, as well as expert opinion from our panellists today. We will keep you right up to date with the goals as they hit the back of the net in all the divisions in Scotland. There's the small matter of the Scottish Cup second round today as well. And down south in the Premier League in England, there's a big one tomorrow, Chelsea against Manchester United. We'll discuss that too, the return of Jose Mourinho to Stamford Bridge. And we'll keep you up to date with the games that are taking place this afternoon. Bournemouth against Tottenham finished 0-0. Good result for Eddie Howe's side at home to Maurizio Pochettino's Spurs team that many think could be in with a chance of winning the title. You can give us your view on that as well. Let's go back to Firhill for that match. Excuse me. Partick Thistle taking on Ross County. Andrew McLean.
Alan Archibald makes 3 changes for today's match against Ross County. Aziz, Welsh and Elliott all come in for the home side. Ross County make 2 changes to the side that lost 4-0 to Aberdeen last weekend. Alex Schalk and Ryan Dow come in for them.
Yep, so there's the changes to the team, and as you mentioned, all for Partick Thistle to play for to move up the table. The one thing I would say about both managers, Ruffy, is quite simply they're experienced enough not to panic at this point in the season. Usually I think Ross County do their best bit of work in January when they tinker with the team, make the odd signing, and I also think that Alan Archibald looks to the likes of a Chris Doolan to start scoring goals. If anything, I think, if Chris Doolan was to get injured, Thistle would be in trouble.
Yeah, I think they would, but I think both teams today are missing very crucial players. Obviously Lawless and Erskine aren't playing for Thistle. They're big players for them. And as we've already touched, I think it's Boyce and I think Schalk, he's not playing either. So both of them are minus top players, games that can win games for either of the two of them. That's why I think this will be really close today, and I only think there'll be one goal in it, but we'll have to wait and see who that's for. Yeah,
well, as you can see on the screen at the moment, let me just go through the teams in the other match in the Premiership. Font Williams, Tremarco, Warren, Meekings, Polworth, Draper, Vigors, Mulroney, Tansey, Mackay and Dumbuya for Inverness, Cali Thistle, and McDonald, Addison, Martin Smith, Mackenzie, Dicker, Jones, Tyson, Scott Boyd, Coola Valley, Taylor and Hendry for Kilmarnock in that match as well. So that's how it's shaping up in the 2 games in the Premiership. In the Championship, there are some good games. I can take you through the fixtures on offer in the Championship for you today. Of course, Hibernian are in action, awaited in Fairmont, Falkirk against Wraith Rovers, Dundee United, Dumbarton and Ayr against Queen of the South. And just talking about Dunfermline against Hibernian, Neil Lennon came out this week, Ruffy, and said, football's lost its soul when Alan Stubbs, a hero, delivering the cup after 114 years for Hibernian, suddenly after 14 matches, Rotherham sack him.
Yeah, and we've spoke on the show numerous times about when you're a manager down in England. I think Alan would have known the circumstances when you're down there. There's far too much money down there to be a failure, and owners and chairmen are not hanging about. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, there's bigger managers than Alan being sacked after that amount of time, and it's all about the money. It depends on what kind of working relationship you've got with the owner and what your targets are. I still agree that it is a bit early to sack somebody, but not down there, not when there's the amount of money that's at stake. I don't think for a minute they were going to get promotion in any way. So the owners obviously saw something that he doesn't like, and on a whim, that's what they do.
Yeah. So he's maybe gone for him to turn things around, though, and you know what it's like in football. They finished 20th in the league last year, and they just avoided relegation, and that's it. So he's maybe come in, he's thought, I'll go and get a top class manager who he thinks was, because he just won the cup with Hibs, to turn this around. And be honest with you, Peter, they've had 14 games, one win.
Aye,
1 win, 10
defeats.
They've had 10 defeats out of the 14 games. So I think they've just looked at it and thought, he's not turned this club around.
He's not what we wanted.
It's not working.
No.
Yeah. After 14 games, you're actually logically explaining away 14 games.
I think as Ruffy's trying to explain it, and I think what he's saying is right. There's so much money in the game down there that it's not right, Peter. We're not saying it's right.
Yeah.
But as a chairman, you're thinking that I ain't going down in another league. So you've got to change the manager. But it's a lot easier to change the manager than what it is. He's obviously seen him in training and all that. And Peter, if it's not working, there's no camaraderie and all that, and there's no sign of it getting any better, he's going to make a change.
Yeah, so
and you're better making it early, I think.
So David Moyes gets 6 games.
I think I think he's in trouble after the day when West Ham beat them.
It could be actually, because I mean, at the end of the day,
it's a big bad world.
It brought him in with his experience as well to turn Sunderland around, and as you say, it's a results business. We know that managers are judged on how they're doing, and as I say, Alan Stubbs would the greatest moment in his career, his history, winning the cup for Hibs, but to go 14 games, Peter, especially when they brought him in thinking he's going to make them better.
We're not saying it's
not right, but that's the way it works.
We're definitely all saying it's not right, but how many managers do we see going into any club that say, I need 3 years?
I know. You don't get that now.
3 years to turn this.
You don't get it now.
The classic was Fergie, wasn't it? Fergie got time at Man United.
He wouldn't get that time.
Look at the difference. He was very close to going when he actually got the result that made all the difference, and he turned Manchester United out. He could have been out before that.
Yeah.
He could have been, in terms of modern day, he probably would have been.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's all down to the chief executive as well. You know, when you change chief executive, Manchester United is a classic point. David Gill, steady hand, steady ship, steady board. Next minute you put in another chief executive, and then you go from Moyes to Van Gaal to Jose Mourinho. Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that. We're getting ready for the big kick-off, and it's coming up next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny are here with us. We can react to anything, Mac, in this show. We can move seamlessly from one topic to the next, and I'm going to take you now to the teams with regards to Dunfermline against Hibernian, Marciano, Gray, McGregor, Hanlon, Fontaine, Stevenson, 5'8", McGinn, Shinnie, Holt and Keatings. And for Dunfermline, it's Murdoch, Talbot, Martin, Ashcroft, Richards, Everton, Gagan, Wedderburn, El Alagui, Riley, Payton and Higginbotham. And I think James Keatings has mentioned that Hibs have been going for some extra shooting practice, Ruffy, just so they can get back among the goals again. That's been a problem for them. Yeah, it certainly has, and it just shows you that when things aren't going well, you have to come up with some ideas. Obviously Neil took the whole team out for a meal during the week to sort of get a bit of a bonding, maybe have a wee chat about how things were going. But again, interesting. I just noticed that Cummins not playing today. Yep.
You know, looking for Keatings, and I think we all know Keatings can come up with the odd goal or two. But I think it's a step for me that Neil might regret, because I know he's not scoring goals, but sometimes you've got to persevere. And for me, he was the one that was winning games for them. And this is a massive game for Hibs today, obviously, with the results that they've been having. Obviously important to keep 11 men on the park, which is they've been letting themselves down. But certainly Dunfermline will give them a game today. But I think he needs a win.
I think realistically, I think it could be a cracker.
Ruffy's just said that, you know, you just got to persevere with somebody even if they're not delivering the results. No, you haven't.
No,
he's not delivering, so take him out of the team, because football's lost its soul anyway. You know, you're getting David Moyes sacked after the West Ham game today.
What I say is he could be in trouble. There could be people looking at him today and thinking this is not the right signing for Sunderland. I thought it was a match made in heaven, but Peter, as you say, it's massive amount of money now, and it's not about football anymore. It's not about money, and if you don't get a result against West Ham, and West Ham's under pressure, they need to get a result. They've not done nothing since they went to the new stadium.
Yeah.
You know, they've been good at one, some parts and bad. They've just not got any consistency. So it'll be a good game, but I think West Ham will put David Moyes under severe pressure.
I agree with Frank on that. I think looking at the Hibs, I think he has to tweak it, Neil Lennon, because they've had the last four. They haven't won the last 4 games. Won the last 5, is it? Yeah, they won defeat and I think 3 or 4 draws.
They've only scored 3 goals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's not been happy with them. He's already made it clear he has to improve, to get Keatings in, change the team about. If they're struggling, he can bring him on as a sub, obviously. But Hibs need to get things going again, because I know they got back to the top last week, mainly because of Queen of the South. Horrendous result at home to Morton when it was 5-0. Queen of South been here, so Hibs are back at the top, but that was mainly because of the great start they had to the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. We're only a couple of minutes away. I'm going to get your predictions shortly, but I'm looking at the story that came out yesterday, and I've dropped him a text just to make sure he's on the case here, but. What about you guys? Are you not ashamed of yourselves? I mean, there's Rab Douglas signed for Arbroath. He's 44 years of age. Big Rab is still going strong, you know. And I sent him a text yesterday saying, I'm trying to get you involved, Rab, in the 5-a-sides for us, and you're going and signing another professional contract, Frank. I mean, it's incredible.
44, well, keepers don't do any training anyway, do they? I mean, let's be honest about it. Let's be honest about it. Yeah. The only time they have to come out is a couple of steps to come out and grab a ball. And Rab's 6'6" anyway. He's a big lad, so I don't think you're not going to argue with him, are you?
I don't think he's got too much longer to go, because I did suggest to him, you know, you've signed another deal for a year. He says, well, 3 months and then it'll be the Peter and Rab show. So he's on the case, Ruffy. He's on your case. One slip off from you.
All credit to him. You know, we all know he's a bit of a fitness freak. Day to day, that's all he does. And to play at that level, you know, at whatever level. You know, it's great. I think we all wish we could.
The big guy, Andrews as well.
44.
Mac is at it again. I don't know if you've noticed that, Ruffy, but Mac is back at the old from a year ago.
No,
just crashes all over the top of you when you're talking.
I'm talking about the big boy. He's not just goalkeepers. The big boy, Andrew. He's a fair age now, isn't he? But he used to play with Rangers.
Marvin Andrews is still going strong as well. Yeah, but Marvin takes care of his muscles above his thighs, because, as you are well aware, you know, medically you look at Marvin's knees and he shouldn't be playing football.
Yeah.
But he's worked on the muscles to protect the knees. Because I think it's grinding. You know, but Big Rab's great. I mean, you must get your respect, Ruffy. He comes for cross balls.
We've been working in our hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been working on it,
Okay, let's look at League One before we go down a road I really don't want to go down in this show. League One, yes, I haven't actually kept you up to date with that. Airdrie against Queen's Park, Albion Rovers, Peterhead, Livingston against Alloa, Stenhousemuir Brecon and Stranraer against East Fife. We'll keep you right up to date with the Scottish Cup second round matches as well. The Premier League in England today. Bournemouth against Tottenham finished 0-0. Arsenal against Middlesbrough. Could Arsenal win the league? Burnley take on Everton. It's Hull against Stoke. Leicester Crystal Palace. Swansea against Watford. West Ham Sunderland. And Liverpool against West Brom is the 5:30 kick-off. And then tomorrow, Manchester City against Southampton. And then Chelsea against Manchester United. It's just heading to 3 o'clock kick-off across the country. If there's a goal anywhere, we will keep you right up to date with it. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. It's one of those days. If last week I suggested to everyone to go out with your family on a Sunday because the games were rank rotten, this week it's just an explanation to your kids. Look, you'll have to sit in the playroom if you have one, because it's so Rangers fun. Celtic, and then it's Chelsea against Manchester United, Macca.
Well, you know what I've been saying for many years. I love this game. I love the game. I think it's the biggest game, and biggest there had been world football. I really do. I think it's magnificent. I always says when I was down in England, this is the only game any English people take notice of. They'll go to the pub to watch the Old Firm game. You know, and it's great for everyone connected with Scotland. It's given Scottish football's been kicked a few times, and this is great that it's back up there and it's getting shown worldwide. And the last one was a good game, the semi-final at Hampden, Rangers won. So there's that debate whether Celtic's got this hoodoo at Hampden, but I think they'll put a show on tomorrow. I really do. I think it'll be a good game.
Well, I'm going to pick up on your point here, Mark. I actually thought the semi-final was a good game because I thought Rangers played all the football.
Well, I mean, it was a good game, but it was good to watch. It was a good game, spectator-wise.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
The last one was again. If anything, sometimes I think the Old Firm game can be. People watching it they're waiting for somebody to get sent off. Down south they're looking, going, can there be a red card, a government inquiry, and then a new law brought in? But I think the two teams like to play football, so we should be getting some sort of decent game tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it could be, but I think that if you were Matt Warburton right now, you'd be thinking first and foremost, if both teams were to try and play their best football, the Celtic have got better players, I think, and Celtic look more dangerous. So Matt Warburton has to think first and foremost and making sure that he stops Celtic playing to a degree, because if he allows Celtic to play, then it's going to be a tough afternoon. It's a wee bit like, you go back to last Monday night, Manchester United went to Liverpool with the same attitude, stopped Liverpool playing, and they did it very well, and it worked out, and they got the draw in the end up. So, as I say, sometimes you've got to set yourself up tactically to make sure that the opposition don't have it easy.
But are we going to get a greater insight, Ruffy, into Mark Warburton if he doesn't change, if he continues to stick with the way he wants his team to play? Now, again, I'm not knocking it because you've already had a manager in the Premier League in England, Pep Guardiola, saying, listen, we've been spanked by Barcelona, but I'm not changing my ethos in the way I play. I would rather quit before changing the way I think the team should play.
I don't think he'll change drastically. There will be tweaks here and there, but I think he will be aware of what happened the last time. I think we all know that in the coaching side he thinks a lot about the game, and he'll have to think a lot about where the mistakes were made, because I've already touched on it. There were parts of the game where Rangers weren't outplayed. I would probably, if you break it into two halves, probably 20 minutes in the first half and 20 minutes in the second half, they were in the game, but goals determined who were going to win, and he will identify the players who are going to hurt him, and then it's up to him to identify the players in his team. Look, if it's Sinclair, if it's Forrest, or whoever he thinks the danger person is, that these players don't play. I think we all saw it at Borussia. Borussia must have watched Celtic tons of times to come out with the tactic that they come in with their better players. But the way they set out their stall, they were right on the top of Forrest, they were right on the top of Sinclair, and there was no supply to Dembele whatsoever. Tierney hardly got forward because they put somebody on his side that he had to keep an eye on. And that they, for me, were the 4 main players that make Celtic tick.
Yeah.
And Borussia went about their job and stopped Celtic playing. I think that's what Rangers have to do early on, and then take their chances after that.
I think the criticism, Peter, is Warburton, is that you can't change the system. That's what it is. It's not. I mean, as Ruffy says, they're going to try and have to stop Celtic. That's going to have to change the system he plays. He's not changed. As people keep saying, he's not got a backup. He's not got a plan B. That's the biggest problem that they're having with Rangers. But I think Alan's right. He's got to set his team up to stop Celtic rather than go and win. I think if he goes high tempo again and tries to, gung ho, then Celtic will run over the top of him.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about it, Gordon. I don't think it's a case of he hasn't got a plan B. That might become apparent again, depending on what he does on this third occasion that they've come up against Celtic. He doesn't have the players. I mean, you get Joey Barton out of the equation, so now you don't have the circus. You've got Nico Kranjčar out. Is he a big loss? Because quite simply, Rangers fans are looking at him saying, okay, he was getting fitter, maybe making a contribution, scored a cracking goal, but he's getting on, and he could have the legs run off him in an Old Firm game, so he's out. Yeah. I'm looking at the Rangers side now. When you go back to the 90s, and Celtic were unable to spend the same amount of money that Rangers were, Rangers had players, and you looked at the Old Firm game and you thought the favourites will be Rangers. They will win this game because Laudrup will run away and beat 2 or 3 men and score the winning goal, or Mark Hateley will hold off his man and then maybe score himself or set up McCoist, or Gascoigne will beat 3 men and curl one into the back of the net. They had better players.
Yeah.
If they didn't work out in the 90 minutes, or if they didn't get the result after 75, they then brought on somebody else on the bench who was even better.
Yeah.
And it's a role reversal. I'm looking at this team and I'm saying to myself, you need someone from the Rangers ranks to score first, but produce a little bit of magic.
I agree. I think you do, and I think we've said it already, and I agree totally with you that Celtic have got better players and even better players on the bench. Will Matt Warburton change his tactics? I'm not sure, because he's also somebody who's very strong on how he wants to play. I mean, the only difference between him saying and Guardiola also threw in a very good statistic. He just happened to throw in 21 titles in his argument, wouldn't he? He just happened to throw that in. Well, I don't think I'll change because I won 21 titles. You will have to go, okay, who else has done that? It's a fantastic record. Matt Warburton hasn't. He's come up there, and last year they had a great semi-final but didn't win the cup. So he got them promotion, he won the league, obviously, the championship, but he has to get Rangers going. He's got his remit is to basically get Rangers up there challenging again. And this is a test. The last game, the league game earlier on, was a test, and this is a further test. This is a test to see if he can get something going from this group of players, even tactically, and stop Celtic playing. He has to do that.
How big a test is it, Gordon, if they don't win? Is he under immense pressure then?
It depends on the level of the defeat. I think most people would accept a Celtic win, because when most people, even Rangers fans, will probably get along with a hope rather than belief in terms of this game, not thinking they're going to win, but hoping they're going to win.
Yeah, what Rangers fans do you know, Gordon, like that? All the Rangers fans I know are thinking, oh, with 2-1, 3-1 for Rangers.
Those are the ones I've been speaking to. They get along with the hope.
I think the biggest
necessarily
problem,
think they're going to win it.
I think the biggest problem as well is I don't think they've got any money to bring players in January either, Peter. So if they get beat, change the manager. I don't know if it's going to work, because if you're not going to be able to bring anyone in, then the players that he's got are obviously not good enough, and I don't know if a new manager could give it a step up. I don't think they've got any money.
I don't even think that's a consideration, Ruffy. I don't think the Rangers, and I'm not suggesting for a minute in the lunacy of Alan Stubbs and Rotherham. I think Mark Warburton, at this moment, the sensible people on the board are looking and saying progression, but just don't get cuffed 2 and 3 times by Celtic, because then it becomes almost unbearable to try and defend you. I can tell you, East Kilbride are 1-0 up on Cowdenbeath in the Scottish Cup second round. That could be a wee shock on the cards there. We'll keep you right up to date with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the people in charge now at Rangers have sat down at the beginning of the season and given the Rangers manager targets, and the targets will be whatever they discussed. I would think it would be do well in the league, possibly get Rangers back into Europe for whatever means. Top 6 definitely, and then the Celtic games come along. A good run in the cup would always be good. Getting to a final would be an added bonus. You're right, getting beat with Celtic would be something that you would have to handle. I think they have already handled the 5-1 game, and you're moving on to this one. I don't think it'll be 5-1. If it was 5-1, then there would be rumblings, because I think there would be Rangers supporters out there beginning to doubt that the people in charge aren't taking them in the right direction. But I think that would be hasty to judge it on 2 games against Celtic, because I think they should wait till the end of the season and then reassess where they are.
Yeah, you know, I don't think they would accept just top 6. I think they'll want top 3.
See, Europe. If you're top 3,
Maka thinks they'll finish 4th.
I think. Well, what I did say, Gordon, and I think you agree, mate. They'll be in the fight for second with Hearts and Aberdeen. I think they will. Yeah. But I just don't think they've got the squad capable to go to the end of the season. I think they'll drop off at some point. They'll lose games, and I think they'll be 4th. But if I was a Rangers supporter, I'd be quite happy with it, because they've not got the team to challenge. They're coming up from where they were for the depths of Scottish football. They've came up. Just consider it. 4th would be a good season for them, I think.
Maka, Airdrie won at Queen's Park. Now, Ian Russell scored the goal. I hate to be, portraying it as someone who's a prophet in this situation, Ruffy, but I can see it all pan out. I can see exactly what's coming. If they can win the game, the whole thing is transformed. Kilmarnock have got a penalty against Inverness. Keep you up to date with that as it happens. If they can win the game, Ruffy, then huge lift. Yeah. Suddenly, players who many consider mediocre suddenly have got their chest puffed out. There's a huge lift, and then it takes you through the festive period. If they don't win it, then you get fans rumbling. But the one thing I would say, Gordon, and I agree with you, Ruffy, on this. Yeah, he will get time. And they'll wait to see where Rangers finish. And then, in the summer, they will continue at this growing unrest at where the money is from Dave King.
Yeah.
That will gather pace.
That will be the case. That they'll have to. They will then be looking at how it's been strengthened. They've scored the penalty. Killie, obviously, they've got the goal. 1-0 up in Inverness. And, a good result last week as well, Kilmarnock. But I think you're right. I think that it's a case of the fans will accept just now not challenging Celtic, as long as I think they can be second, but we'll need to see. But I think you're right, it'll be a real close fight between it's going to be Aberdeen, Rangers and Hearts fighting for second, third and fourth, isn't it? So Celtic are going to win the league. But if you're right, Peter, if they could turn this around and even a narrow defeat or a good performance against Celtic, even if they do lose, the attitude might change towards it a little bit. But if they get another hammering, as Ruffy says, that the fans will then start to already at this stage they'll start to make a lot of aspersions about what's happening within the club.
Berwick Rangers 0, Hoyk, Royal Albert 1. Josh Morris with the goal there. Koulibaly scored the penalty.
I think if Celtic score first tomorrow, that's the character will be. The Rangers' character will have to shine through, because if it could be an onslaught if Celtic score first. So it'll be great for the players to stand up and be counted.
Off the back of that defeat to Borussia Mönchengladbach, the Celtic captain Scott Brown's been assessing the squad as they go into another Old Firm game.
Yeah, I think we're in a better place as well. I think our league form, we've pushed on from strength to strength, and we've brought in really well in the summer there, and we're looking strong. We've got a great squad, and we've had some great results as well. Even though the other night was a little bit disappointing, but we've still played not too bad. They've watched us closely in the last couple of weeks, knowing this game was coming up, and they'll play a little bit differently. I don't think they'll be as open as they were coming to Celtic Park, but we'll just have to wait and see what team they put out and who fancies it more on the day.
Yeah, Mackie, you know that line, who fancies it more on the day? I always hear Old Firm players talking about just who's up for it more, who wants it more.
Well, it's a great thing, it's true, Peter. You look at people on the tunnel on the way out, and you think, I'm having you today, and you just know when the game starts. As Ruffy says, you get a bad ball. If you get a bad ball, you make it yours, and then you're lifted. And it's just one of the. As you say, Peter, the big players have got to stand up. This is the games that they want to start. This is the games that you get noticed. And you score goals. As a striker, you scored goals against Rangers. For me, it was great. That's when I get noticed. And if a midfield player, like Paul McStay, takes control of a game, then that's where he get noticed. That's different. The same with Rangers. It's one of the games that you can go and say, look, I've had a bad couple of games, but I'll go and produce on Sunday at Hampden Park, and everything will be forgotten about, and that's what it's like up here.
Rangers captain Lee Wallace also speaking ahead of the big game, and he mentioned the fact that both himself and the players will have learned lessons from that 5-1 defeat at Celtic Park.
I did say that at the time. I remember speaking to you after the game, and it was tough trying to get your emotions and how I wanted to try and get points across. It always is after defeats in that manner, but having went away, you quickly have to turn that into motivation, and that's days later. You obviously have to get yourselves back training and focus on how you can be better, as I keep stressing, and making sure that we get ourselves back to how we deem being the way that we play. And I think in the last 3 or 4 games we've managed to do that, and as I keep saying, that we're obviously feeling a lot better about ourselves, and we're going into this game feeling a bit more confident than we did the last time.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be key to see what style of play he does indeed play, Lee Wallace and Tavernier.
Yeah, I think that there are. You're not going to. I don't think you're going to say to them for a minute, right? I don't want you to go forward. You know, there are times in the game when you can go forward. You know, but I don't think I'll be wanting the two of them to be bombing forward at the one time.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's when gaps will appear. But I think both of them will have something to say in the game. What I would say is it's been very, very noticeable when Rangers were coming up through the divisions. The two main players, well, not all the time, but majority of the time, were the two fullbacks.
Yeah.
It was Tavernier scoring. Lee Wallace getting up and scoring. You know, they were always in the 18-yard box. That's not the case now. Obviously, coming up a few divisions, you're playing against better players, and you won't get away with it all the time. But I still think the two of them have got something to offer. I just think they have to be, I think, disciplined more than anything else. You know, there's a time when to go forward and when not to, and I'm sure it's up to them to decide when that is in the game.
Yeah, we will hear from Ian Durrant, John Hartson and Steve McManus later on in the programme in the final hour. You can hear what they had to say in programmes earlier on this week about this game. It's the big game. Give us your thoughts on it. We're running a poll at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter. Who do you think is going to win the big derby tomorrow at Hampden Park? Macca's mentioning the state of the pitch. Does that really matter? Give us your thoughts on that. Who could be the key players at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter? Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy for Rangers against Celtic. And then after that, of course, we'll be concentrating on Chelsea against Manchester United. If you're in control of your TV control on a Sunday afternoon, if you get away with 2 games back to back, I think you're the dominant force in the family, Gordon. It's as simple as that. And, you know, if your husband doesn't want to watch it, just, you know, get him away. Just sit down and watch the football.
No, I think having 4 tellies is the answer.
Yeah.
That's the way it works, isn't it?
Well, it wouldn't be great, Ruffy, if we had 4 tellies like Gordon had and all his family could watch what they wanted. That would be absolutely fantastic. Of course, Chelsea against Manchester United. I'm really looking forward to that as well, Macca, because Antonio Conte, you know, there was a couple of weeks there they were rumbling about him. Jose Mourinho has mentioned in the last 24 hours he wasn't friends with Roman Abramovich. It was just basically a business situation, and he felt as if he wasn't doing the business, so he sacked him.
Yeah, well, I think he's played it down, and what they were trying to say, they're trying to make it out going back there, Peter. The fans loved Jose Mourinho down at Stamford Bridge. There was no getting away from that. The manager wasn't the owner wasn't a great fan of him. It was fan power that got him back in the first place, and it just, I think the players back, you know, stabbed him in the back. Really, I think it was, and it does happen, and that's the way it is. He's not going to. He'll be wanting to go there. He'll be wanting to win, and then he'll applaud the Chelsea fans, and that'll be the end of it. And then there'll be no more of this. But I think Man United's far bigger club than Chelsea, and I think he's delighted with it. And as he said, he doesn't want to go to Chelsea because he's wanting to go and win things with Man United, and that means he won't get sacked from there.
Were you ever a player that would moan and bitch behind the manager's back, Macca? Was that the type of you were? Yeah. No. You caught me on the hop there.
No, there was a couple of managers you just can't take to.
Yeah.
There was, but not just me. All the players. I mean, there was some players that just managers couldn't take to.
I know. If you could write down
just
the
one
names
name,
of those
just the one,
managers,
just the one.
No, don't
L. Starts with L.
Any syllables?
Ruffy, you just got on. Well, listen, I was going to say you got on with everybody, but you didn't.
You didn't.
No, I mean,
yeah, you didn't.
No, there was obviously another one. came off the park and you went shotgun.
Well, Wraith Rovers have just gone one up at Falkirk. That's a big interesting one.
I think when people come in and completely change the style of who you... If you're in a team that plays a certain way and you're it's a winning formula, and then someone comes in and tries to change it, and you're totally aghast at what they're trying to do, and you don't see any logic in what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's a big factor. A lot of people, I mean, I remember somebody was saying that there was no such thing as losing the dressing room and all that thing, and I didn't agree with that at all. Because managers do lose dressing rooms. And I've seen it so often myself, just the fact that people, as you say, Frank, it can be a reaction. One manager can leave and he's not going well, and the next guy comes in, it changes everything, and the team plays better, and think, how can you get more out of these group of players? It's because of that manager. The manager's a key figure at the club as to whether a group of players are doing it or not doing it. There's no question of that, and I've seen many examples, and I've played for one or two who didn't realise themselves the effect they were having on the team.
I think David Moyes said once, he said when he went to, was it Everton? When he first went to Everton, they were playing in London, and all the boys had booked hotels to stay over for the night after it, and they got a draw, they get beat, and David says, no, we're all going back in the buses, we're training tomorrow. He says it was the worst thing he ever done, because for the next 7 games they never kicked the ball. He says, and it was just because of the reaction. He says, I thought, and he learned a lesson, he says, so you've got to be hard.
Ian Davison has scored for Wraith Rovers his first of the season, and Falkirk have equalised. It's now 1-1. So just as you mentioned there, they have been in a good run of form, Gordon, Falkirk. Yeah, just on that point, I mean, I want to talk about Chelsea, Manchester United as well, but we were talking about boards that get edgy, and then all of a sudden, in a short space of time, start sacking managers. If I was a manager at Sunderland, I'd be worried, because that is a board who've sacked managers willy-nilly. The one thing I would say is a saving grace for David Moyes, Ruffy, is the fact that Martin Bain, the former Rangers chief executive, is there now, and Martin, a calming influence, a sensible head, a sensible voice on this, might allow David the chance to build something here, because they've just always been involved in a relegation battle.
Yeah, and I remember seeing David doing an interview saying that the Sunderland supporters have to realise that just with me coming here doesn't change things dramatically. Yeah, I'll try and get them further up the table, but it's not going to happen overnight. So he's already told them, but we all know sitting here, if they were to go on a run of not winning games, it's fan power. It's fan power that put the pressure on Martin Bain. It's fan power that put the pressure into the directors sitting in the directors' box, and then they get a bit twitchy, and then they start calling wee meetings here and there, and who's all for him, who's against him, and then you have a show of hands, and if it's one less than what you want, then you're out the door.
At the moment, Ruffy, they're separated. There's 6 points separating from 13th place to 20th, where Sunderland are sitting, so that's not much. A win and a draw can put them right back in contention to escape it. If it goes on a bit longer and these results continue, then he will be. As soon as people begin to believe, and the fans will create it, as soon as they believe that they are not going to get out of that relegation zone, that's when the pressure comes on.
The biggest problem, Peter, I've watched them a couple of times, and some of the defending is like comical. It's really schoolboy errors, and people just not communicating or not picking up their runners, and it was terrible to watch some of the goals. And David must be thinking, and that's obviously something that Sam Allardyce would have worked on, but David must be thinking, how can I get them back to just go and challenge the ball? If you don't win it, you're putting a guy off, and he can't get a clear header. I mean, some of the headers that have been coming in against them is just nobody been near them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking here. 2 points in 8, 6 goals. It doesn't augur well. If Jermaine Defoe got injured, I think you just shut the doors and just say, okay, we're heading to the Championship. But they need to find goals from somewhere, and they need to get their act together quickly, or we'll be talking about David Moyes in another 3 or 4 weeks again. Isn't it amazing how you can get to a situation where you make choices in life? We talked about Alan Stubbs winning the Scottish Cup. 14 games later at Rotherham, he's out of a job. David Moyes, the hottest property, Ruffy, for many a year, tipped by Alex Ferguson to take over at Manchester United, and then from there it just falls apart. And he was on the verge, close to getting the Celtic job.
Well, we interviewed him, and my first instance was, next club has to be a successful club. Next club has to be winning things. You know, winning leagues, winning cups, his CV goes back up to where it is. And I was if we don't know if that was it was on the table, the Celtic job, but I'm on the assumption of if it was on the table, I think that's the one I would have went for. I know why you would go to Sunderland. You're in the best league in the world, supposedly, but you're putting yourself under pressure at a club where you're not guaranteed to win cups. You're not guaranteed to be chasing the top six. You're not guaranteed to be doing. So why would you make that decision? I thought the Celtic job would have been ideal for him to go in there and just get the CV back in order. Because if it fails in this one, you know, where do you go after that?
I know, I agree. Yeah, that was the one he should have gone for, because as you say, he was going to end up having the strongest team of players in the league, as opposed to maybe even having the weakest at the moment.
Yeah. And of course it'll be a nice contract as well. Not that matters to managers at any club. Well, it does, let's be honest with you. But you know, you want to make a success of it. But it's a big call for him anyway. Apart from that, I can tell you, it's Airdronians 1, Queen's Park 1, Milne with the equaliser for Gus McPherson's side. We will also keep you up to date with the Scottish Cup second round. There are some fantastic ties in the second round as well that we will keep you up to date if there's a goal that hits the back of the net. The one thing that I'm looking at this moment is the fact that there's not a lot of goals around on a Saturday afternoon. That's the crazy thing about it. Penalty at Dunfermline suddenly. It's Dunfermline have got a chance to go ahead in that match, Ruffy.
I mean, pressure's on. You know, we all thought that all of us never thought they were going to run away with it, but I did think it was going to be tight. Not by, it's a goal, that's 1-0 Dunfermline. Not by teams like Dunfermline. I thought Dundee United, you know, Falkirk would put them under a bit of pressure, but they're stumbling a wee bit, and you'll have to come up with ideas to start to get them on winning run.
Then he could be under pressure.
No, not going to be under pressure.
Yeah,
there's no goals in the English Premiership today as well. I mean, we've already had a game with no goals, and now there's not a single goal after 26, 27 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, as you well know, it's a rotten league. Callum Higginbotham.
Well, there is one.
As soon as you mentioned it, there's a goal.
Stoke City have scored.
Stoke City against Hull, and again we're talking about it. No sooner does he sign that permanent deal, Mike Phelan, than he gets absolutely battered by Bournemouth. Sitting. That's what I call a comfortable seat in the dugout, and you think, that's great. I've just signed that contract.
You were sitting there thinking when the fifth goal goes in, thank God I signed that contract.
Absolutely.
Has it been put through yet?
Yeah. And talking of contracts, lads, Neymar. £275,000 a week till 2021. Incidentally, Shaqiri has got the goal there for Stoke in that match at Hull. £275,000 a week.
Who's on
Neymar. Neymar, £275,000.
Would that be net?
It's not bad, is it?
Do you know the great thing about it, Gordon? I really couldn't care if it's net. The mere fact that I know I'm getting 275.
That's the same as Messi, and he's not, obviously, Messi's on.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Micah, because I was looking at where that actually shapes up in the top 10 of teams paying out, colossal. Who do you think's the top man? Partick 1, Ross County 0. So the home side, Ruffy, getting the goal there.
I can just see the supporters in Tenderhooks already.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't hold the lead. They can't hold the lead.
They were enjoying themselves until they scored.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think probably Ronaldo would be the top earning player.
So you think Ronaldo's the top earning player? What about yourself, Ruffy? Who's the top earning player in the world as far as wages? Now, weekly wage I'm talking about.
Messi.
No,
Messi
Pogba
for you?
maybe. Pogba.
Pogba? Yeah. Let me get. Do you want a clue?
Yeah.
It's a superhero.
Hulk.
Yes.
Hulk.
Well done, Micah. That's why you're here, by the way.
Glad you said
Hulk.
Batman.
Captain America.
Yeah.
Batman.
Well, absolutely. Or the new United Nations ambassador, Wonder Woman.
May have got away with Robin. May have got away with that one.
Yeah, but no. It's Hulk on £320,000 a week. £320,000 a week for Hulk playing in Chinese football.
But is he happy?
Hey, I think he's happy, by the way.
I think he'll be happy when he finishes playing.
£320,000 a week. It's obscene. But the other thing I was going to say to you is Sean Welsh got that goal for Partick Thistle, by the way. Graziano Pella, 290,000, which is all the more amazing because he's not what I would associate as one of the top players in world football. He's in Chinese football as well. Airdrie 2, Queen's Park 1. Ian Russell gets his second there. Ronaldo's on 288,000, and then you've got Messi on 275, and then Rooney on 260,000. This is Rooney who's not getting a game at the moment.
Adam Rooney.
Yaya Toure on 230,000 pounds, and Aguero's on 230,000, and then the next man in the top 10 earners is Asamoah Gyan. Remember he used to play for Sunderland? He's on 227,000. He's in China as well. And that's the problem. That's why Barcelona, as Hugh McDonald mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that's why Barcelona are trying to ring fence their star players, because the Chinese can pay colossal amounts of money.
Well, I was wondering why Pele went, because he was doing well. He was doing really well at Southampton as a boy for Southampton. He was doing magnificent. I thought he's going to go to one of the bigger clubs, and then he just disappeared, and now I know why. 280. I think I might have went to China as well.
I
went to Hong Kong and I get paid to leave.
The one surefire thing I know, Macca, that Ruffy and I have discussed ad nauseum is, Macca will stay loyal with us until somebody offers more money, and then it's a quick tweet. All the best, lads. Hope you're doing well. See you later.
I'll still be
You're taking Chinese lessons, aren't you, Macca?
Taking
Chinese
lessons. I can't do that.
I think more than that, Macca. I think the word I'm looking for now is free transfer. I'm sure you'd go to Chinese football as well. A couple of people, I think Derek Riordan did it. In the early days, Derek Riordan.
I think the early guys that went there didn't seem to be settling for whatever reason. I mean, obviously, it's a change of life. It was a change of life.
He really is unhinged. He's not the full shilling.
Change of lifestyle, and I don't know why, but seemingly food was a big thing as well. You couldn't get what you were used to eating here. And obviously integrating with the players that are there who probably don't speak any English. So
let's be honest, that kind of money, you would put up with for a couple of years, wouldn't you?
But it wasn't that money then. I'm talking about the early with the first guys.
When I went to Hong Kong, I knew that I was still something to give football, and I was better than.
What age were you then?
I came back and signed for Celtic. So.
I know, but what age were you?
I don't know, 33, 34.
Is that right? I think if you're on £227,000 a week,
I'd have stayed.
What you do is you say, and I think there's a couple of players. I think Steve McManus mentioned yesterday that Stephen Pearson is actually in India. But he comes back here because his family obviously stays here, so he'll come back periodically. I think if you're on £227,000 a week, what you do is you mention to your family, look, I know you can't come out, but I'm taking the chef from the local restaurant with me. Her name is Debbie, and she's going to cook for me. You need a cook. You can't go there.
You're getting £286,000 a week. You just go out and buy a restaurant. Tell them what you want.
Absolutely. But it's interesting, that type of money. I've got no qualms with it, though. If you've got that, if it's the disposable income and it's generating that sort of money, the players deserve what they get. It's obscene when you think of other professions, but nevertheless.
What does Debbie look like?
I don't think it would matter if I thought I didn't like the food market, to be perfectly honest with you. They're crying out for goals today. They're just few and far between. And the one thing I would say to you, Ruffy, is with regards to tomorrow's games, I think the Celtic Rangers game will produce a good few goals in comparison to what Chelsea Manchester United might, because they are very much they can cancel each other out.
Well, I think so. I think in the Manchester United game, I mean, I was disappointed with the Liverpool game, although tactically it was fantastic to watch, because the way Manchester United play was counteracting Liverpool. Liverpool play with a tremendous rate, pressure, and they go and close teams down. So I've never seen a game like it where both teams were hardly getting a second on the ball. and that's why it wasn't so good. And there was some good saves with the goalkeeper, and also I felt that Ibrahimovic should have scored with a header.
Yeah,
came at the back post.
Should have hit the target anyway.
Correct.
Target.
But apart from that, I have a funny feeling the Chelsea-Manchester United game tomorrow could be similar to that, Peter, because I think the Mourinho will set them up in the same way.
I think Mourinho said something about Liverpool when they played the other night. He says there's so much of the ball, so the stats didn't mean anything because they only had one shot at goal on target. So they can have the ball as much as they want. If they're not peppering the goal with shots and headers, then they're not doing the job.
United certainly stopped them playing, there was no question of that. Yeah.
Lithgow Rose 0, Stirling Albion 1. Do you remember we had a wee trip to Lithgow Rose, Ruffy?
Yeah, we did. And I think when Lithgow Rose had a fantastic year at Hearts. Remember they went to Hearts and Hearts scored in the last minute, was it that?
Yeah, it was that season actually where you managed to borrow a very expensive car.
Yes, I think it was.
And we went into Linlithgow in that car, and I feared that we weren't going to come back out of Linlithgow with that car.
Well, I don't think Linlithgow had saw Bentley Sports.
No.
It was the fact that we got a flat tyre when we were there.
Yeah, I am not sure anybody goes to who goes to a football match in a Bentley. Gordon, you just
any of these boys in China will.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. But there's a goal in the Scottish Cup. We're crying out for a goal again at the other matches. As you can see, a quick update: Inverness, Cali Thistle against Kilmarnock, and Partick Thistle against Ross County are the only two games that we are covering in the Premiership today, because the games in the Scottish League Cup semi-final today ended up Morton 0, Aberdeen 2, and if I'm honest with you, I think Jim Duffy is raging at the end of the match, Ruffy, not for the fact that maybe Aberdeen get the win, but the first goal's offside, and I mentioned that to you.
Yeah, I think it was marginally, I don't
think... it's either offside or it's not. There's no marginal. Is he offside?
The way... If I had been the assistant, I wouldn't have noticed that first time. I would have been watching the flight of the ball coming over. He was in and come back out again. It's a matter of milliseconds of what you're seeing. You've got to call it. When I saw it the second time, when I saw it the first time, I wouldn't have brought it up. I wouldn't have brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be hard for Duff to get beat that way, I think it was great that they got to the semi-final. He's done a magnificent job, but to get beat like, because they were a better team. I thought in the first half they were a better team.
Absolutely, Frank. And the thing about it was, I'll tell you why Jim Duffy might be upset, Peter, because the goal was a turning point.
I know.
And it was against basically the run of play at that stage when Aberdeen scored. So if it had still been 0-0 there, Morton were looking like the team that could win the game. But once it went 1-0 and Morton were trying to get back in the game and pushing forward, they were more vulnerable then, and Aberdeen controlled the last part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We've not got a lot of goals to talk about today, and I must apologise for that. The footballers really need to get their finger out here. One of the games in the League One, Livingston against Alloa, 0-0, and on the Livingston Twitter feed, they've just put out the biggest cheer of the game so far as the ball bounces out of play and lands perfectly in a pitch-side rubbish bin. And now, I don't know about you, but if anybody has filmed that on their camera phone, then suddenly it'll go viral. That's what happens with these things when you try and do it. The amount of times, and I often wonder, Gordon, the amount of times you see players playing the head tennis, trying to get it into the bin, and then of course there is a cracker with one of the basketball players who's bouncing the ball and the basket's behind him, and he starts bouncing it and then he just throws it up behind and it goes right into the basket, and you wonder yourself, wonder how many takes that took.
There's also one I've seen, I don't know if you've seen it, was an amateur game, somebody was filming it and somebody shot over the bar and the ball flew down and went through a car window that was open, the car was driving past. And they were in the window of the car.
Yeah, well, what about
I don't know how many takes you would need to get that if that was staged.
Did you see the one where Nakamura hits the ball and the bus passes by and he goes straight through the window into the bus?
No, haven't seen that one. Is it the same? Is it similar?
You had to be there.
Was it London Road?
It's absolutely fantastic. But these things can go crazy. What we're going to go crazy for is a goal this afternoon.
Some Scottish Cup ones I've been writing down for you.
Go on, fire away.
He's done something.
You've got Cumbernauld Colts 0, Forest Mechanics 1. You've got Cumbernauld East Kilbride, haven't you?
Yeah, we've done that.
1-0 East Kilbride.
Yeah.
Berwick Rangers 1, Hoyk Royal Albert 2, Huntly 0, Spartans 2, Bucky 0, Gretna 1.
Wow, brilliant, Ruffy.
What a trip that must have been.
Well done.
That's fantastic.
Gretna to Bucky.
Just watching some of our rivals down south, because they've got no goals either. I'm just wondering how they're talking up Spartans and Elgin and what they're talking these goals come in.
One goal in the Premiership in England, and it's nearly half time. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible. And I'll tell you right now, there's been a fantastic save by Ophir Marciano. Dunfermline almost 2 goals in front in that match, and I'll tell you, you can go out for a meal all you want, but you still have to go and perform. Falkirk 1, Wraith Rovers 2. So goals flying in now in the lower divisions, and almost Hibs going 2 goals behind Ruffy. I think they'd start to grumble about Neil Lennon then.
Yeah, I think it's when you get a manager from the old firm going in there, everything's okay as long as you're positive. But if you've not got a, like Hibs and Hearts, if you've not got a local, I don't mean it has to come from Edinburgh, I just mean if it's somebody out with the area, if things start to go badly for you, I think they're not as sufferable. I think they maybe latch onto it quicker than. And also the expectation, Hibs have to come out of this division. There's no ifs or buts. This is the year, and if he wasn't to come out of the division, he would get.
Well, Alan Stubbs is available.
I'm sure if it wasn't happening, they'd take him back.
What about this scoreline? Burnley 1, Everton 0. Sam Vokes with the goal for Burnley.
Bit of a shock.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if Sean Dyche might look and think about re-signing Joey Barton in the January transfer window, Gordon.
Possibly, you never know, because I mean, he did well for them. He was a player of the year, and he was an outstanding performer. He might consider the fact, I think they did want to keep him, but he might consider, well, it's Premiership. He didn't do well in Scotland in the Premier League. Didn't have a great start, and maybe he'll look at the step up in the terms of play in the Premiership in England. He might not think he's going to do the job. So it'll be interesting to see, but it will be. I think it possibly will be available.
Yeah. Messi, I can tell you, scored for Barcelona against Valencia, but there's rather worrying news with Iniesta stretchered off in that game. Even now in his 30s, still an absolutely fantastic player. Can I ask you this, Maka, which under normal circumstances, if the goals had been flying in, I wouldn't bother, but since we're not getting any goals, is he a world-class player who maybe doesn't get the recognition that he deserves? Iniesta and Xavi?
Yeah, the two of them are. The two of them, I think, quite rightly, the goal scorers get all the plaudits, Messi and people like that, but Xavi and Iniesta were just absolutely magnificent.
Yeah.
I think the whole team that Pep Guardiola had was a great team. It did change. He says Pep says he got it all from Johan Cruyff. He says he got that style, and I just think, well, two players like that, they just keep the ball, Peter, for fun. And if you play midfield, if you're playing up front as a striker like I was, and you see the midfield players keeping it and getting it and passing it, all one touch. I mean, it's magnificent. Yeah. It's just unbelievable to watch.
Technically brilliant.
It'd be a joy to play in that team, but it's great to watch.
It was amazing the other night, they were almost like saying, well, Messi's having a quiet night, he's not his usual self. Like 3 goals and assists and just brought it down for a penalty. I think if any other players going about can have that kind of quiet night, then it shows their level. And Iniesta, as you say, he doesn't get the goal, so he doesn't get the credit for it, but he is a tremendous player. Very rarely ever gives the ball away.
No, he doesn't give a ball away, and it's great, but imagine having the 3 strikers in front of you as well.
Oh, I know.
Messi, Neymar and Suarez, it's just... As a midfield player, I mean, we're talking as strikers, but 8 guys behind us. As a midfield player, if you see the 3 in front of you, it must be just a joy. The whole team must be great.
Mark Stewart has scored the goal for Wraith Rovers there, 2-1 in front. And I think, Ruffy, it's fair to mention, I like mentioning things because the programme's all about is keeping you up to date with the goals and a bit of interaction as well. Strangely enough, because we have such a huge technical team behind us, it's monumental, the size of the company that we have that puts the whole thing together. If it was a scratch and sniff telly, I'm sure we could smell soup. There's nothing worse when you're working on a programme and you can smell soup.
I just got all the talk about the Chinese food and everything that people read, and obviously somebody from the backside is decided
something for a bit.
Is to cook noodles. I don't know what you said there, Maka, but I'm really not listening.
You just let things go. You get away with things, doesn't it?
Maka's
oh, Leicester scored. Leicester.
Well, thank God for that.
Against Leicester Palace.
Yeah,
another goal in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Here's a wee test. Here's a wee test and quiz. There's only one team. Only one team in the English Premiership is unbeaten. Who is it?
There's only
a wee
one
question.
team. Yeah.
Right, go on.
There's only one team in the English Premiership is unbeaten.
Today?
No, in this season.
What a good question that is.
Unbeaten.
One
Unbeaten.
team is
Tottenham.
Arsenal.
Who you say?
Tottenham.
Arsenal.
Frank, who do you think?
I'll say Watford. Was it Watford? No, they got a lot of draws, didn't they?
Go on then.
Go on. You got a guess?
Watford, this is.
No.
Yeah.
Ruffy got it right. It's Tottenham.
Tottenham, aye.
Tottenham, the only unbeaten team.
There you go.
So you would get it wrong.
No, you might have said Tottenham as well, but what is fun enough? It's Tottenham, the only team that have not lost a game.
That's why they're talking about them winning it. There's a big talk about them.
Yeah, I can see them top four definitely, but I can't see them winning it. Musa got the goal for Leicester, and Musa brought in a different kind of player from Conte.
Yeah.
I think Leicester, Claudio Ranieri, consistently always says 40 points. Leicester just want to stay in the top flight, but he wants more than that. They want to be able to at least have a half-hearted or at least a half-decent defence of their Premiership.
I think so, Peter, but I also think they're concentrating big time on the Champions League, and it's working well for them.
Yeah.
3 wins out of 3. That is, I mean, they've got a great group. You have to say that. Not the hardest of groups, but I think that they've won the league now, and what do they say? Right, what we do now, guys? Let's go for that. And as long as we establish ourselves and stay in the league, because they would know themselves they're probably not going to win it.
I think if they get top 6 this year, it'll be a great season for them.
I agree.
It is the finest upset of all time, I think, in football history that I can recall, unless there are a number of events in sport that you can come up with, but in football, certainly the British shores is phenomenal.
You know what, you're absolutely spot on, because what happens is you get the odd cup upset that you can take into account, but you very rarely ever get a league upset, because league they have to do over
42 games.
40 odd games. It's like, how can you possibly have that as a surprise when a team can do it over a full season against the level of opposition they had in front of them? They were the Arsenal, the 2 Manchester clubs, Chelsea, Everton. So it was an amazing.
I think the problem for the other teams that were weaker at the time. I'm not taking anything away from Leicester, but I think the other teams that were weaker at the time took so long to work out what the game plan was that Leicester were then out of sight, and it was trying to take them back.
What he played was he played something that they were used to, and it's a 4-4-2, and he was stuck with a 4-4-2, and the defenders didn't know how to handle it. 2 strikers.
Yeah,
that's right.
It always helps when you get a genius in midfield who's got a magical left foot in Mahrez.
That's what we're talking. I mean, it's Mahrez and let's be honest, Kante was different class as well. And there's a few of them, but it's one of these situations. I just think that the top teams didn't step up to the mark last year.
Yeah, Micah, what about our bro? 3-1 up on Stirling University, and I think Dick Campbell again working his magic.
Well, Dick will tell you. Dick's never short of telling you how good he is.
Yeah, well,
and sometimes you think, well, go on, Dick. He's been about the game for as long as I care to remember. But
good man.
He's a great guy. He's a great manager. He's got such a great passion for the game. He's enthusiastic and he's old school. He'll hit you with his bonnet, and he'll hit you with a couple of lines if you don't do it right for him. And he's one of the guys that you just think, well, it's a dying breed, if you like. So.
Well, Stirling University's manager not a woman, Peter. It's a lady manager, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, but I was going to say something to you which I think has been amazing about Queen's Park. Their form of late, Ruffy. Gus is just struggling to get the wins that he was craving. There's 8th in the table, but it's just not going well for them today. They're 3-1 behind. I'm looking at the results and I'm thinking, just 1 win in the last 7 games?
Yeah.
6 games. 1 win in 6.
Every manager we've had on the show has said, there isn't that much between the sets of players at all the teams, and it just depends on the day. Where you take your chances. Defences, if you've got a strong defence, you can possibly see your way out of the division, but it's just not happened for them. And you're going to expect times like that in the season when it's not going to go right for you, but they'll just have to keep hanging in there.
Do you think it could be anything to do with the fact that Gus was so heavily mentioned with the St Mirren job, and it could have
maybe derailed them a little? Possibly, I wouldn't rule that out. Half time fast approaching across most of the games. In fact, the one game that kicked off early in the Premier League in England was Bournemouth against Tottenham. That finished 0-0, and all of the other matches are half time now, and goals in short supply, to be perfectly honest with you, in the Premiership. Shaqiri and Musa scoring, and I think as far as that's concerned, only Burnley 1, Everton 0 is the other goal. So not a lot of goals on show. Liverpool West Brom is later on this evening, and then Chelsea against Manchester United takes place tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock kickoff. Let's not forget, we'll talk again about Rangers against Celtic, which is a 2:15 kickoff tomorrow at Hampden Park in the Scottish League Cup semi-final, and they will be playing Aberdeen after their 2-0 win against Morton today. I think most of the headlines will be from Jim Duffy suggesting that the first one was offside, and it's even more difficult to take when you have a goal that's offside. But to Derek McInnes, he deserves tremendous credit because he's managed to lead Aberdeen to yet another final. I wonder at what point there is a ceiling point with regards to Derek McInnes. I still feel as if he maybe got the short end of the stick at Bristol City.
Yeah, oh, he did. I mean, I think everyone admires him. I think he's spoken of very highly in the game. A lot of people realise he's a good manager. Speaking to Craig Brown last week even about him, and Craig's still involved at Aberdeen, and he rates him very highly. And he's hoping that the Scotland thing doesn't come around, because there's been talk as well that he's one of the candidates if the Scotland job changes. Gordon Strachan comes out of that job, that Derek McInnes would certainly be up there for consideration, and the Aberdeen people don't want that to happen because they rate him so highly.
Yep, James Keatings and Grant Holt have come close for Hibernian, but from the cross from Andrew Shinnie, neither of them in the last couple of minutes have been able to get on the end of a ball directed towards goal. So Hibs still looking for that equaliser. It's Dunfermline leading in that match. Could be another painful result for Neil Lennon. You can give us your view on that at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. The half-time scores across the country coming up next. We'll also reflect on Aberdeen's win in the Scottish League Cup semi-final. We'll bring you the Scottish Cup second round half-time scores, as well as looking at the Premiership in England. All to come after the break in the company of Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny, and more chat about the Old Firm encounter to come. And Frank McAvenny are here with me. Let's look at the half-time scores across the country. Goals in short supply into the Premiership in Scotland first of all. And only one goal there. It's Inverness 0, Kilmarnock 1, Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 0. In League One this afternoon, let's not forget also Scottish League Cup semi-final. It's Morton 0, Aberdeen 2. Rooney and McLean scored the goals there. Into the Championship, I beg your pardon, for the half-times. Ayr United 0, Queen of the South 0, Dundee United 0, Dumbarton 0, Dunfermline 1, Hibernian 0, and Falkirk 1, Wraith Rovers 2. Now we can go into League One after the Championship for the half-time scores. Airdrie 3, Queen's Park 1, Albion Rovers 0, Peterhead 0, Livingston 0, Alloa 0, Stenhousemuir 0, Brecon City 0, and Stranraer 0, East Fife 1. And in the Premier League in England, there was an early kick-off. Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 0, Arsenal 0, Middlesbrough 0, Burnley 1, Everton 0, Hull 0, Stoke City 1, Leicester 1, Crystal Palace 0, Swansea 0, Watford 0, West Ham 0, Sunderland 0, and Liverpool against West Brom is 5:30 tonight. Manchester City take on Southampton, and Chelsea will face Manchester United tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. kick-off. Let me quickly just go through some of the goals in the Scottish Cup second round. Annan 0, East Stirlingshire 0, Arbroath 3, Stirling University 1, and they're down to 10 men, so really up against it there. Bankside 0, Formerton United 1, Berwick Rangers 1, Hawick Royal Albert 3. That could be a wee bit of a shock there. Bonnyrigg Rose, Cove Rangers, Brora Rangers, Clyde, and BSC Glasgow and Beath. No goals in those matches. Bucky Thistle 0, Gretna 2008 1, Cowdenbeath 0, East Kilbride 1. Could there be a wee shock on the cards there? Cumbernauld Colts 1, Forest Mechanics 1, and elsewhere Edinburgh City and Forfar. No goals in that match. Gallifrey 0, Elgin City 3, Huntly 0, Spartans 2, Linlithgow Rose 0, Stirling 1, Preston against Montrose 0-0, and it's Wick Academy 0, Whitehill Welfare 1. There's a name from the past as well. So that's the Scottish Cup second round as it stands, and as we head into the break, I'm just looking at all those financial rewards that we were talking about, the players in the top 10. Hulk was in the top with 320,000 a week, but I think he's just been beaten by the new deal that Ronaldo has just signed for 18.5 million after tax. Gordon Smith. I
know, that's incredible. It's about 355,000 a week. I mean, it's not bad money to live on that.
355,000. Would you still talk to me, Ruffy, if you were on 355,000 a week?
Definitely not.
And I think that tells you more about Ruffy than it does about me. Okay, Ruffy will be back with us after the break because he's not on 355,000 a week. He's with Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny, and we'll be getting ready for the second half. Are we going to get goals in the second half? Come on, across all the divisions, we're hoping for goals. Stick with us. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Half time across the country will be venturing into the second half with hope, maybe expectation of more goals than we got in the first half. Wasn't the best. Let's go to Firhill for Partick Thistle against Ross County. A half time report there from Andrew McLean.
Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 0, the half-time score here. 45 minutes of football played, but only one real moment of note in this game. Chris Doolan taken down in the box. Sean Welsh stepped up to take the penalty and hammered it straight down the middle into the back of the net. Partick Thistle have looked assured at the back, playing with 3 centre-backs today, and Ross County have really failed to show any quality throughout this half so far. Here at half-time, Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 0.
Yep, Andrew at least getting a goal of note there to talk about. Let's hope he gets a few more in the second half of that match. But nevertheless, Ruffy, as you've mentioned, week in, week out on this programme, even when Partick Thistle look dominant in a game, you always think somebody's going to come back and equalise or even get a winner against them.
Yeah, particularly in the last 10 minutes. I'm sure Alan Archibald and the rest of the coaching staff will be standing in that dugout thinking the same. And that's been the main problem, is getting the second one, you know, to go 2-0 up, which gives you a bit of breathing space, and you would like to think at 2-0 you would see out the game, but that hasn't been the case. They've always either lost a goal to get a draw, or lost a late goal to lose the game. So it'll be a crucial one today as this game goes on, and I think they'll be hoping they could get that second goal, because the fans will start to get restless as well as it stays at 1-0. As we spoke about at the beginning of the show, the last 3 games were 1-0, so if it stays 1-0, I'm sure they'll be happy, but it'll be a long 45 minutes.
Archibald's playing 3 at the back. They don't normally play 3 at the back, so that might be a change of system that is needed.
Yeah,
to tighten
managers
up.
Changing, Maka.
Yeah, no, but they don't play 3 centre halves. They don't normally.
No.
He's obviously identified that, and everyone can see there's goals getting leaked in, so he's tightening up. And
he's playing with 3 centre halves and 4 fullbacks.
Just really tight.
Yeah, terrible to watch.
I mean, Shrewsbury were lurking, asking for permission to talk to him. Alan Archibald's one of those guys, though. He's not flamboyant, he's not in your face, he just likes going about his business. We've had him on the programme on more than a few occasions. Ruff, he talks a lot of sense. I haven't got a lot of time for him. I like him.
Well, I think we all know that the results are the most important thing of being a manager at a football club, but a lot of people take a lot of consideration into what you're doing away from the Saturday. You know, what you're doing behind the scenes, you know, your training, you know, what structure you've got behind, if his academy's working well. And if you've got a couple of players who you've signed or have moved on to other, they'll say to clubs, you know, I was up there, you know, he's a really decent manager, he gets on well with the players, and that's sometimes how you get a job. You know, not for a minute we're sitting here, we're thinking Shrewsbury, you know, have picked him out just because. Why have they picked him out? Because it can't be about results, because they've struggled every year. But maybe that's what kind of manager that Shrewsbury are looking for. Maybe they're in the same position. They see how he's working. They see how he manages to always get them out of the trouble at the end. And that may be the kind of manager they wanted. But it was good that he came out right away and it never dragged on. And he just signed, I think it was a 3-year deal. So the board and him know the direction they want to go in, and they just need to keep away from the bottom of the league.
What happened if a better club than Shrewsbury comes in? Do you think they'll still be staying there?
Well, it depends who the club is. He's already said that. You know, obviously every manager wants to go higher in the game. So I think it just depends what club comes along.
Yeah. What if it's Rotherham?
Well, again, you know, you'd have to look at the wages and things like that.
Ruffy, I love it. It all boils down to money for you,
what kind of payoff you're going to have.
Yeah. That's it.
If he goes on to 255,000 a week, I think he'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. But strangely enough, a lot of clubs now are driven by results first and foremost. It's becoming more difficult for a manager to come in and say, okay, I want to change the whole structure, the old ethos of the club, the grassroots and everything. Everybody, I mean, I think some managers have fallen back on the Fergie story as an excuse to try and buy them the time and say, look, can you look at what Manchester United were able to do, stick by a manager who in the end, I think they thank Lee Martin for scoring for Manchester United against Crystal Palace to change Fergie's fortunes. But the difference then between that time in football and now is, in the background, Fergie had Sir Bobby Charlton as a real friend who looked and was able to see what he was doing in the background. You know, the whole structure of Manchester United had been changed.
Well, that's it. I mean, but that should be the case. I mean, because when you get a job, you've obviously had to have an interview and you've got to put forward exactly what you're trying to do. One of the things you'll be saying is, obviously, I'm trying to get results immediately and win games, but the other side is I'm going to make changes in terms of how we develop players, what the recruitment process is going to be, all these kind of things. And these things do take time. The one thing that is immediate are games, and you got to get results. That's the only immediate point of it. But if there's other things that have to be taken into contention as well in terms of improving the club, the board can't make a decision that quickly and just say, oh, that's it, time for you to go. So it is unfair to a degree, but you're always going to be judged. If you get results right and you're making a mess of everything else, you'll stay in the job. But the results are the things they judge you on.
Well, I'll tell you, the only one that kind of bucks the trend, and that's for the financial situation of the club as well, and what they've had in a strategy since 2005 is Arsenal, who've decided to stick with their man through thick and thin. Ayr 0, Queen of the South 1. Ayr 1, Queen of the South 0. Sorry, I was looking there, I'm thinking to myself, Ruffy's going to shout at me. Ayr 1, Queen of the South 0. Kearney scored the goal, and the reason why I mentioned this game in particular is because when all the lads were coming in at the start of the show, Ruffy actually he chastised me, Macca, and said, what are you doing picking Ayr United for our quadruple today? Because quite simply, he didn't think that Ayr United were capable of beating Queen of the South. But Ruffy, it's 1-0 at the moment. Do you want to reply?
I think you're doing well as we stand now. And,
what have you got?
We've got nothing else apart from yours.
What was your team?
Inverness, I think. What did you take?
I've got Dundee United. You're drawing 0-0.
Yeah, Macca?
I don't gamble, mate.
Yeah, well, we're not gambling either, we're just taking me guesses.
I don't get asked, Peter, I don't get asked.
I bet you
any chance you could involve Mac in it. Mac is one of the
maybe get a double, me and Peter would win every week.
You can gamble, because you've got to gamble sensibly.
Yeah. And on the basis of the last 52 weeks, I don't think we are either.
I bet you gamble.
It's just a... What?
Oh, every day. Every day.
Getting out of bed in the morning is a gamble for them.
No, it's getting into bed as a gamble.
Well, I don't know where we're going with this programme today, because I just wish we had goals that would keep us all going in the chat. I'll tell you one thing you haven't noticed this weekend, which could happen, and I think it's something that Glasgow could go mental if this happens. I know that a lot of people are talking about it, Gordon, at 10 in a row. It suddenly becomes, the obsession with everyone with regards to 10 in a row. But Glasgow City, if they win, could get 10 titles in a row.
I know.
Which is incredible for the girls. They've done really well over the years. Scott Booth's in charge.
Yeah, I've always been amazed. I mean, even when I was at the SFA, was part of that run. I remember speaking to somebody once, and it totally stunned me by telling me that these girls train every night.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Part-time.
No SFA?
Yeah, it was for a part-time team. It was like three. You're talking about the professional players. Men's teams train twice a week, and these girls are training 5 nights a week. I mean, I thought that was a tremendous commitment they had.
Yeah, and we've been out there, Ruffy, actually covering them for the programme. I think it was maybe 6 months, if not longer. But I'll tell you, the commitment, the technical ability is there. And of course, I think, as time goes on, they'll become even more and more athletic. The physical aspects of it will change, and I think, it certainly will be next 20 years at a standing where you'll have women footballers getting paid, substantial amounts of money per week. 50, 100 grand. I don't think we can.
I think the foreign girls are a wee bit ahead. They are getting paid
physically.
They are getting paid. At some of the top clubs in Italy and Spain and the likes.
Even England
as well. But you're right, and it's interesting hearing, every time you see that there's a wee sort of a lull, and say Celtic and Brendan Rodgers says we're a work in progress, and Mark Warburton says we're a work in progress, and so the girls are a work in progress, and they're really, really trying hard, and not just the girls at the top, the Glasgow City girls, all the other young girls underneath it are feeding off of success, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and there are more and more teams. I mean, you're saying Glasgow City are 10 in a row. For a lot of these times, it has been like a Rangers or a Celtic. There's been no challenge.
Yes.
But now there is a challenge.
Well, Hibs are
getting things, and a lot of the clubs are bringing in better players, and I think the league is getting more and more competitive, and I think they are. I think they will admit that they're still a wee bit off it in European football, and obviously in international football they could beat 7-0 there with Holland, but they're closing the gap. And that's the biggest thing for them. Every year on year, they're getting better and better.
Yeah, I must admit, Mac, I was surprised that you don't think in the next 20 years that there'll be women getting 50 and 100 grand a week. The reason I mention it is because right now in British football, I think Scotland has one of the top players in Kim Little. She's just re-signed for Arsenal Ladies.
Yeah, but I'm just you're talking about massive money like that. I just don't see it coming. I don't see the sponsorship getting into ladies football. I think it'll be good. I think the wages, it'll be a great living for them. I think that's no doubt in that. But I don't know about 100 grand a week. I don't think it'll go to the heights like professional football. I don't think sponsors will get behind it. Maybe the way they should.
Well, it's funny you saying that, because maybe a lot of people were actually Docherty scored for Dundee United. They are 1-0 up on Dumbarton at the moment. They said that in 1973 when Billie Jean King was really putting a strong point across for tennis. And lo and behold, you look at the Williams sisters now. The money they earn.
I know. I think what you're seeing is that in terms of the biggest link to the money side of it will be the media coverage, won't it? It'll be TV coverage. If women's football becomes a TV event, then that's the money will rise up.
That's what I'm talking about.
It isn't there yet, but
the football, the gents football.
England, I mean, you've got Arsenal.
It's not at the same level.
I know it's
you don't get people. They don't go. You don't get good support. You don't get the support. You know, that's what the biggest thing. And to get the backing of the TV companies, you need a big support. You need you can't show empty stadiums you know, it's just like today's semi-final.
Okay, let's come back in 20 years, Mac, and we'll see how much
I'll be delighted to come back.
Yeah,
same money, nothing.
To be fair, I'll be delighted if you're actually back here as well. But we'll do our best to get you here.
I'm as cheap as you can get.
Barcelona, no, there's cheaper. Barcelona won Valencia 0 from the first half. The reason I mention that, guys, is because Barcelona, albeit there was a red card in midweek, the Champions League dominates at times. Are Barcelona good enough to win it this season for you, Gordon?
I think I've tipped them to win it, but I don't think there was as big a gulf as the result showed on in Wednesday night. I thought Man City were well in the game when they got the ordering off, and it changed the game. And as soon as you give space to the type of players Barcelona have got, then you're up against it. But to be fair, the other side of it is, if MD was able to stop and put up a formation that was going to stop Barcelona playing, it's Guardiola, because he developed that formation. So if MD could stop them playing, it's him. But I remember he had a great comment once when they said, how do you stop Lionel Messi? And he said, you can't.
Nah. That's
what he actually said. He said, you can't. He says, if he's on his game, he says, there's nothing you can do about it. And it's very much like that, isn't it?
Tackle in the tunnel.
That's your best chance.
The problem here, and a lot of people will look and say, okay, why can't Pep Guardiola suddenly just implement that whole style to Manchester City? What a lot of people forget, Ruffy, is this whole system, this whole structure that I think Johan Cruyff has to take tremendous credit for, is at every level of Barcelona. So in effect, you know, it's very easy. Guardiola was part of that system, so he could implement that system. I mean, Barcelona are not running, you know, Barcelona are not top of La Liga right now. Luis Enrique's got a job on his hands, but if the structure is there, I think that's where Guardiola's got a job to do at Manchester City.
Well, it seems to be the players that they come through the academy are role models of the players that are in the first team. And the teams that play in the academy play the same system as what the big team. So anybody making the step up, you put me on the spot and say who are these players, but I'm sure there will be players in the fringe ready to break in to that Barcelona side at some time.
They've all done it.
The only thing for me is, and I keep saying it, I still think you can get at them defensively. I don't think they defend corners. I don't think they defend free kicks properly. So you've got to be a team that can put them under pressure.
Well, that's because they've lost one of their all-time legends in, you know, Carlos Puyol that you didn't like. I can tell you, Yannick Bolasie has equalised for Everton in their game, so it's now 1-1. It Gregor Buchanan, who scored that own goal. Dumbarton's Gregor Buchanan headed into his own net. So Dundee United leading at the moment. And Livingston 1, Alloa 0. Finally, they've taken the ball out of the bin, and Mikey Miller has scored in that game. Just interestingly enough, there, I'm looking at the goal for Dundee United. Suddenly, with Hibs and Falkirk losing, Gordon, what a real chance for Ray McKinnon's team to step up.
Absolutely. I mean, they've come back well. They're only 3 points behind Hibs at the moment, and as you say, with both Queen of South and Hibs losing at the moment, then Dundee United would get up to top spot, equal with them. So it's been an amazing run they've suddenly gone on. He's suddenly got them going. And I thought Dundee United would be up there, but the way they started the season wasn't too good, but they're on a great run just now.
It's all Hibs at East End Park, Ruffy. Hanlon's hit the post, the non-stop pressure on the Dunfermline goal.
Yeah, that hasn't been the first time. No, they've been like that. You know, they do create a lot of chances, but sometimes they just, if you don't get the breakthrough, then the pressure mounts, because there'll be a lot of pressure on these players, you know, as there is with Neil Lennon. But the pressure's told because Hibs have just scored. It's one each.
There you go. Honestly, I couldn't have timed it better, Ruffy.
Timing's a bit of thing.
It is. On this programme, it is, Macca. 1-1, would you believe? Fantastic. Just when you set it up. But again, you know, they've got to go and build on that now. They've got to lift from the equaliser. And we're just wondering, I think the great thing about it is they're not running away with it early on, because that's what's happened in the Championship. James Keating's, all that shooting practice in midweek, Gordon, has paid off.
Well, absolutely, and it shows you that the manager's made the right decision in putting him in there. He's left Cummings out and put him in, so that'll be a big boost to Hibs. I mean, that gives them plenty of time in order to get a goal and come back and win this game, because obviously they've got 35 minutes to go and that's him equalised. So it's a big game, because it would have been a bad result if they had lost again today. But he can have equalised as well in League One, and there's the team that's sitting second top, and they were down 1-0 to Stenchmuir, but they've equalised as well, so they're back in that game. But as I say, Dundee United, I think they've got plenty of time to go and win that match.
The thing about Hibs leaving Cummins out, he'll get the kick that Neil's intended, because Keating's come in and scored, so he'll be sitting. He'd have been hoping that he never scored. Because he's a big guy, I am, and he'll be saying, well, he's come in and scored, so I've got to step up now.
In the Championship, Macca, Peter Houston has been sent to the stand. Falkirk 1, Raith Rovers 2. Houston clearly not happy. The referee has had to come over there and have a quick chat with him. And talking about referees, Ruffy, Craig Thompson in charge of Rangers versus Celtic tomorrow. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think he's a good choice. I think he's very well highly regarded. UEFA. He gets a lot of the big European games. He's not been in the press recently for anything bad. Like all referees, they make a mistake. That's probably been between him and Willie Collum, but I think Willie got the last big one, didn't he? So I think it's probably just rotating it a wee bit and giving their top referees the game, because let's not kid ourselves on, it's an important game. And we keep on saying that the big decisions have to be called right, and I would like to think that that's what happens tomorrow.
Yep, and of course Willie Collum was in charge of the Champions League fixture in midweek, Bayern Munich against PSV. Clearly highly thought of at UEFA.
Yeah, yes. I mean, they do rate him highly. I'd say that some of the problem he's had here is because there's been controversial decisions that he's been involved in, and decisions he got wrong. As I say, he probably the first to admit it. The referees do openly admit it when you speak to them, but as I say, at the time they can't do anything about it. Once you make a decision, that's it. It's made, and they have to live with it.
Yeah, Okazaki scored for Leicester against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace just can't keep a clean sheet under Alan Pardew, but Leicester in control there, and I think this could be the turning point as they go into the winter months, where Leicester suddenly just start to make a wee run again. I'm not for a minute suggesting they're going to win, but it's one of those seasons where I think you just hold on to every bit of memorabilia, Macca, don't you? For that season, you do. Listen, another one here, interestingly enough, I think there's a real hint that Steven Gerrard's time at LA Galaxy could be at an end. He put out a tweet. Now, I'll read it out to you guys, and then you can give me your thoughts on what he's going to do. So it's on his, I think it's on his Instagram account. He's got a picture of himself there, and he says, living in Los Angeles and playing for the great Galaxy supporters has been a privilege. You have made this place feel like home to me. This city and this club will always hold a special place in my heart. Thank you. And all the best
There's only one place he will. There's only one place he'll leave there for, and that's if he comes back to get a job at Liverpool.
But you might need to check something here because they're giving on the information I'm looking at here that a non-goal, Hibs goal, is a non-goal. So we need to maybe check and see if it is.
Was it Steven Gerrard?
No, that was Steven Gerrard.
Going with that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just down to two journalists, and one's not looking, and the other one is looking. Having been at many a game, I always it could have been a deflection on this one, but I always remember taking Ruffy to the press box for the first time, and he was looking at all the other journalists going. What are they doing, Peter? I says they're just making sure they've got the right goal scorer. And that's what it's all about.
What they doing, Peter? Reading and writing.
Do you think Gerrard would try China? I think he would be.
Steven Gerrard?
I think.
I don't think he needs some money. I think he would come home. I think there's a job somewhere. Somebody's obviously had a nod and a wink to him to say come back. And remember, when he was back in England, he was training at Liverpool with Jurgen Klopp there with his blessing. So you couldn't rule it out. There might be a job there for him. I mean, he absolutely he loves Liverpool. I don't think he's got a role to play in the team. Do you?
No.
What about Celtic?
Yeah,
big January signing.
Well, I was going to say to you, Ruffy, are you now at the point where you're always reacting to those little rumours on social media?
No, I don't read social media. I'm just thinking that's the kind of signing that Celtic used to make in January, and obviously the connection's there.
It'd be massive. I don't think it's a bit of
does he need it?
If he can still earn it, he'll want to earn it.
Yeah,
so he doesn't need it, but if you can earn like £200,000 a week, you want to earn that, don't you?
Yeah, no, but can you say 3 months of your career just to say to help a manager that you really respect and. Well, I'm just threw it in. I'm just saying it's going to happen.
That's a jersey seller, isn't it?
It's a jersey seller, but over and above that, Gordon, I don't think I'm going to tell you something about Livingston 2, Alloa 0. Liam Buchanan scored the goal, so Livingston I think commanded that match now. Not good news for Jim Goodwin's side. I would mention this to you, Gordon. I don't think Celtic will want to sign the likes of a Steven Gerrard in the January transfer window, because every time they signed a big player like that, they lost the league.
That's true. But in the past that's happened. They signed Roy Keane and people are like, you're absolutely right. And I don't think they necessarily would want him either in terms of they've got a good level of midfield players. They've got players who got a good level of fitness, and Brendan Rodgers likes to play that way. So I don't think that he would maybe see that as a wee bit like the Joey Barton element to a degree, where he comes in there and maybe the other players are saying, no, he's earning all this money.
Can I tell you something? And again, it's all about opinions.
Yeah, of course it is.
I'll tell you, Celtic are crying out for a Steven Gerrard.
You think so?
Absolutely, because I'm looking at midweek. They don't have a player who's what I call your classic number 10, who can come and pick a ball out and then pick a 30-40 yard pass. I think he is ideally the man that would go in the twilight of his career and sit there and take the ball off the two centre halves, because in midweek in the second half at one point Scott Brown came back to play centre half almost.
Put every square.
And he's not. Scott Brown has got great qualities, and I think the qualities that he has, he's fantastic at breaking up other people's fluency in a game. But they're crying out for a midfielder, and Beaton for me slowed the entire game down in European football. So, it's that type of player, that experienced player that you would want to sign. But as you say, Gordon, I think money. Does he need the money?
Possibly not, but as I say, if they're bringing him in to do a certain job and do well, then he would.
But he's getting European, getting Champions League football again. I think.
He's just actually. It's incredible. He's just tweeted.
He's not going to get that either.
He's just tweeted now, Ruffy. There's no way I'm going to send you guys to move on. Get a grip of yourselves.
Dundee United.
I think he could be coming back to maybe Liverpool and get a coaching job.
Liverpool.
I think that's what it is. I think he could be coming.
Ruffy, I don't think we can discount what you said. I mean, these are always strange times. Strange things can happen. Brendan Rodgers and his association with Steven Gerrard couldn't rule it out. Dundee United have scored 2-0 up against Dumbarton in control in that match.
It may just be saying thanks to the LA Galaxy supporters for welcome him. Just
he's enjoying his time there. Maybe he is enjoying his time there.
Just saying thank you for that.
Macca.
Maybe like jumping the gun and
well, I was just about to say, people do things for a reason, Macca. It's as simple as that, you know.
Listen, for the last 5 minutes he's beat at Celtic and Liverpool, so it's...
Well, I'm sure we can link him with somebody else before the end of the programme. And of course we will be hearing from John Hartson and also Ian Durrant. We had Durante in the midweek programme. Thoroughly enjoyed his chat. It's Valencia have equalised against Barcelona. 1-1. Mani has scored. And he's on loan from Barcelona. It's always good to score against your ex or your current pay holders. Yeah, I think we will hear from Ian Durrant. It was great to have him in, Ruffy. I thought we've got a little. I think we've got a little special for the festive period with him as well, which was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was super. Listening to all the stories of the cup finals that he played in. You know, the players he played with, and apart away from football, you know, the mentality of the club at the time, and the new signings that were coming when he was a young player, and had to hold his. With being so young, hold his place with all these big names that were coming in. So yeah, it was really, really interesting.
Yep, it's going to be one of our Christmas specials with Ian Durrant, a Legends programme on the Football Show. And again, the one thing I would say, Macca, God, psychologically, how strong must you be to come back after 2.5 years out, and then your first game, there's 35,000 at a reserve game to watch them?
I think I was at that game. I think it was at the one at
against Hibernian.
No, but it wasn't. Then I played. It was Duncan. I played one at. I was coming back for injury, but obviously it wasn't me. It was Duncan Ferguson at Rangers, and it was Wednesday afternoon, pouring a rain. There was 30,000 fans there. That was incredible. But going back to Durante was. I mean, he was a special player. I thought it was different class. You know, and I just wonder where the kind of players have gone to, Peter. But they can't just have. Where are we doing wrong that we're not getting the kind of players again?
Go on,
you know,
test the two of them about his international record. No, but his international record.
Give them a competition,
on,
you mean?
Yeah. See if they can get near it.
Okay then. Well, what I want you to do is, if you can, tell us how many caps he's got and the split between the caps for Rangers and Kilmarnock. And I can tell you, Hibs have got a penalty in their match, and they've scored it. So they're in the lead now against Dunfermline.
Wraith have scored. Wraith are 3-1 up.
Wraith are 3-1 up.
There's no penalty yet.
What a turnaround that is. That's absolutely amazing. I'm just looking here. I'm just waiting. He's taking the steps back.
I'm confident they've scored it.
Yeah, McManus has scored for Wraith in that game. So that's a real turn up, Gordon.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got to guess how many caps Ian Durrant got and how they were split. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes.
I don't think he got many, did he?
I think he got 15.
15?
And I think he got... Hibs have scored. They've scored the penalty. I think he got 8 for Rangers and 7 for Kelly.
Okay, 8 and 7. Macca, do you want to have a go at this?
Half a dozen.
So 6 caps in total.
Aye.
You only got 6 caps.
I didn't get many, did he?
Okay, I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Well, that's why we're asking you. Have a guess.
So many great games.
I'm just
great players at the time. I don't know.
6 caps. Okay. Ruffy?
Well, I know the answer, so it'd be unfair for me to take part in this.
Well, you always do.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just saying, Ruffy, tell them.
Okay, he got 22 caps.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He got 11 for Rangers and 11 for Kilmarnock, which I found absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because he played for Kilmarnock.
This was after his injury.
1998 to 2002, 4 years.
Different class,
and he was absolutely fantastic for them as well. Dunfermline won, Hibs 2, and it's Grant Holt who's got that goal from the penalty spot. I did tell you they'd scored, but the boys there were just doubting me. But he's taken a few steps back, scored the goal, and that will do his confidence the world of good because they need to try and get moving on that. Airdrie are 4-1 up now. That's an Ian Russell hat-trick. What a day it is for him. Airdrie only is 4, Queen's Park 1. And what about this? Valencia are leading Barcelona by 2-1. That's a turnaround there after Barca being a goal up through Messi. Rodrigo gets the goal there. I won't ask you to comment on it, Frank, because we only get to see Spanish football.
Well,
in the Champions League.
Talk about managers going, if they win the Champions League and don't win the league, they'll be getting sacked at the end of the season. That's how much they're over there.
Can you tell me a manager who actually was billeted at the end of the season after winning the European Cup?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of his name. I remember it. Yeah, it was a Real Madrid manager, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, I thought I'd mentioned it to you. Actually, several Real Madrid managers have actually fallen foul of that. But do you want me to give you his name, Gordon?
Yes, please.
Jupp Heynckes.
Yep.
And I think Del Bosque.
He was the one.
I thought it was. And he was gone
I thought it was.
in the summer. Now that's a club where there is, no sentiment when it comes to moving managers on, as Ancelotti found out as well, to his cost, Ruffy. They just look at it now. If there's a new president in, he thinks, I want somebody else.
Well, it's amazing as they leave, they've always got a big smile. I'm away. I've been paid off.
I used to feel sorry for him. There you go. How much?
Barton scored, by the way. Barton back in it. 2-1 against Dundee United.
2-1 against Dundee United. It's amazing, Ruffy, how all of your conversations about anybody losing their job is all about their payoff. There's something rather worrying about that.
Probably because I never ever got one.
That's a very good point, actually, 1-1, the goal, Stephen Bell for Stranraer. Stranraer 1, East Fife 1. So goals coming in across the country now. We're starting to get more goals, which is good on a Saturday afternoon. We've also got a big game to look forward to. 2 big games, in fact, that I think will get some discussion going in the final hour of the programme, and that is, of course, Rangers against Celtic, Chelsea against Manchester United. Give us your view at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. We'll read out your messages. Hibs have managed to turn it around, Ruffy. If they can hold on to that again, it's going to be interesting to see the way the results are going. Falkirk 2, Ray 3. Listen, this might be incredibly tight. Lee Miller's got the goal.
Yep, I think the 3 points for Hibs today will give them a massive boost. I think even although they weren't doing well, as Neil Lennon said the other week they're still sitting top of the league. If you're not winning games and you're still sitting top, that's the encouraging bit about it. If they will win today, it would just give them that wee gap if the results stay as they are.
Yep, Ayr United still leading by a 0-0 over Queen of the South. You guys, how's our treble looking, Ruffy, at the moment?
We're just waiting on Inverness scoring twice.
Okay, so that's that.
So that's that knackered.
That's gone. Yeah, said a spokesman for the politically correct. That's it gone. Inverness should be winning matches like that. It's just it's one of those crazy lines that a manager uses, and then suddenly Kilmarnock get a chance to go up there and score the goal. So Kilmarnock still leading by a 0-0 up there against Inverness. I don't know, do you get the sense that Lee Clark is suddenly just turning it around at your old club?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, that was a good result they got before, and they're suddenly start to put it together. And funny enough, if they win today, they actually would go top 6. So that's a big factor. I mean, when would MD have considered the start of the season that Kilmarnock were going to be, after 10 games, would be a top 6 side, but they can go top 6 if they win today.
Yeah, and it's a crazy situation. Micah, they got they got a good win against St Johnstone. Again, last week I think we were surprised by it. If they could get that win away from home again, but they've got a difficult run coming up. Hearts, Rangers, Hamilton and Celtic and Aberdeen on the horizon.
Right.
So it's a tough old run for them. I think they'd have to look and say to themselves, well, if they get 3 or 6 points out of that run, they'll be doing really well.
I think that, but he's got a lot of new players in, Peter, and it took time for them.
Yep.
It's all right saying good players settle in quickly. They do when they're coming 1s and 2s, but when you're bringing a completely different team in, they've got to get to know each other. And,
he brought about 20 players in.
He's brought a lot in, so a lot of young guys as well. People say, well, they can't win with young players, but then the other thing, young players have no fear. They just go and they don't care. They don't bother about going to Celtic Park or going to Ibrox and turning it on and trying to show off. So you've got to give him a lot of credit. And I like Clark as a manager. I thought he was different class. He'd done a lot of things right. So yeah, good luck to him.
Brown has scored for Peterhead. Sooner or later, Ruffy, my tip to win that division has got to make a move. I mean, I felt as if it was a little bit crazy of me at one point to suggest Peterhead were going to win that division. I thought they were in a good position to do it at the start of the season. Then they just dropped right to the bottom. Miserable run of results, but maybe today could be the turning point for them.
Well, that's a good result because Albion Rovers have been on a bit of form. I think they've won the last couple of weeks, so to come down and hold on, if they can hold on to that 1-0, obviously would help them. Just get away tonight, just get on a wee run.
Falkirk 2, Wraith Rovers 4. Mark Stewart scoring the goal just as Falkirk thought they were getting close, maybe making a game of this one. Suddenly Wraith Rovers come back again. And again, I have to pay tribute to Gary Locke and Darren Jackson, the two of them there. Gary maybe surprised a few people picking Darren, but Darren's a good coach, and there they are.
I mean, there's not much really in that division. You look at the championship is always a hard-fought league. There's no doubt about that. Even one team gets promoted, but there's a fight for the other 3 teams getting into the playoffs. And right down to Morton didn't have a game today in the league because of the cup semi-final. But even if they have a game now in hand, if they were to win that, you're talking about not many points between all the teams. That's why this could be a good win for Hibs. If Hibs finish with these 3 points today, it puts them in a strong position with Queen of the South losing, and also, as I say, Falkirk losing as well, who were right up near the top.
Leicester 3, Crystal Palace 0. Fuchs with the goal. So confidence booster there for Leicester City. They haven't quite changed their style completely, Macca. They've just changed a few of the players, and that again takes time to get used to the way and the style that they play. Although I'm amazed Vardy's goals haven't been as prolific. I think a lot of teams are starting to work out his style of play as well.
Well, he's been unlucky a couple of times, Peter, and as a striker, it doesn't matter how you get them. You just want to come in off your shin when you're on a little drought kind of thing. And I think Leicester last year, they just soaked up all the pressure and they just hit on the break, and that's when Vardy came into his own, because the pace of the guy is just unbelievable. No one can give him any time, and they're just playing a different way because the defenders are now stepping off, and so there's more space for the midfield players, and maybe Vardy's finding it harder to get in behind them, but I think it will come. I think, I just think Leicester's, the manager, the players, have all got a great camaraderie there. They've got a great togetherness. They seem to be enjoying it. Every time you see him at training, every time you see the manager, he's always full of beans, and I just think it's a good setup down there. And Vardy, I'm delighted that he stayed, because that's his club, and I think it'll come good.
Yeah, I think Sunderland would be happy with a point today. It's still 0-0 with about 10 minutes to go. They would be happy if they could just hang on there and get a point. But the big surprise for me is Arsenal. After the form they've been in of late, Arsenal not leading. They're drawing 0-0 at the moment with Middlesbrough.
I hope it's not a boring 0-0, because Middlesbrough's been playing decent football as well, so open. So it might be a good 0-0.
I know that Arsene Wenger has mentioned that he'd like to see Mesut Ozil get forward, start to contribute the goals. He scored a hat-trick in midweek. Maybe not the best opposition that's going to really test Arsenal, but nevertheless, he's still got to score the goals, and they cruise through. And I think Wenger is looking for Mesut Ozil, but I like the fact that Sanchez is their number 9, Ruffy. I think he offers a greater threat than Giroud.
Well, he's not like a traditional centre forward. He can play wide in either area, he can come in on either foot, and he can score goals on either foot as well. Certainly when he plays in the middle as well, he's still got that pace that can hurt the opposition. Yeah, I think he's a super player as well. I think Giroud's a good player as well. But I know you don't like him, Frank, but I just think that he's one of these centre forwards. He needs to be given the quality, the ball into the box, and certainly when the ball comes into the box, as we saw in the European Championships there, he can, although he might not hit the target all the time, if you checked his stats at the end of it, I would think his goal scoring opportunities would be high up there in percentage.
I know, but I'm talking about, see, if they had a top striker,
give me a name.
Just go back, see an Ian Wright, he was in this generation, if he was playing that Arsenal team, they'd be winning the league.
Well, they moved
do you
in
mean like Terry Henry?
They tried to get Vardy.
Somebody that's scored.
Yeah.
But it's a wrong.
Tried to get Benzema as well.
Yeah, they tried to get Vardy.
Benzema, yes, but Vardy, no, because Arsenal play into your feet, and that's not Vardy's. Vardy's over the top. That's where he comes into his own.
Yeah.
So it was the right decision for him to stay. But I just think Giroud's not. He swans about, and I think there's more to him. I'd like to see him do more. I think you can get more out of the player than what. Maybe he's just one of the players. He looks as if he's not.
Maybe it's a style that Arsenal play.
So the manager's got to buy players for that style. I mean, you're talking about right. He could play that style. He could play over the top. He could play into feet. And the manager should get a striker who can adapt to the team and score. You need a striker for Arsenal that's going to score over 20 goals a season. And that's what they've not got.
Chris Boyd almost made it 2 for Kilmarnock, hit the woodwork, and again that really would have signed, sealed and delivered all 3 points for Lee Clark's side, but they're still in the lead by a solitary goal. Earlier today it was Morton 0, Aberdeen 2, and I think Derek McInnes after the game has mentioned, Ruffy, that he's just hoping that this could be a period of success for Aberdeen, craving the success and trying to deliver what I think most Aberdeen fans would love, silverware, whether it's a League Cup, whether it's a Scottish Cup. The dream would be, the Premier League, but that's, I think, as we all know, and Gordon mentioned there, that's over a sustained period, and you need to be relentless. You need to have players that you can call on in the squad, and I don't think they've got that depth.
No, and that's what happens when you can give the league leaders a run for their money every week, and that will keep the supporters on board. But there's nothing better for the supporters to turn up at a cup final and have everything at the build up of going to a cup final. And I think if we all cast our mind back to maybe 15 years ago, I think Aberdeen were regulars at Hampden just about every year. It was just a given that they were going to be in a final. So it's been a long time since they've obviously been in that kind of run. And they'll be looking at it, I think, fancying their chances against either Rangers or Celtic tomorrow. Because on the day in a cup final, we know that strange things can happen, and it'll just be a fantastic day out and a great spectacle for whoever's in the final.
Yep, Darren McCormick has added number 3, Stennismuir 1, Brechin 3. And again, the great thing about Aberdeen, it's a one-team city. I mean, you played for 2 teams that were there's only fans in that area, and it's fantastic when you get that, that backing, and they're coming to Pittodrie in great numbers. They're giving them the backing. The only thing that I think would cap it all off for them and maybe give them a greater amount of financial strength would be a move to a bigger stadium. But if I'm honest with you, I don't see that stadium that they've got plans for getting off the ground.
Just depends. They tried before and they didn't get permission, but they're trying again, and it's a different location, this one as well.
Yes, and again, I'd still suggest to you right now that they're not going to get it.
Well, I'll wait and see, because I think that a lot of people were saying they didn't think they were treated very fairly last time by the council up there in order not to give them the permission. So they're going to try again. But you're right, they've got a big support. They've also got a big travelling support as well, Aberdeen. You've got to give them credit for that. Their fans do travel, and they've got a lot of affection there. I mean, they had that great era during the Fergie era when they won a European trophy. They were playing at the highest level, winning leagues and all that sort of thing. That will probably never be repeated again. But nevertheless, the fans still, they still love it because of their, Inverness have got a goal.
They didn't.
Ruffy,
you happy with that, Ruffy?
It's a bit late, actually.
I think so. Oh, it's plenty of time, Ruffy.
Still waiting Ross County's equaliser that's 88 minutes.
Oh, I know. I would like to be sitting at Firhill today with 3 minutes to go in this game.
I know.
There would be lots of nails being bitten.
The thing is, with Aberdeen, you were talking about Aberdeen here, so I know I've just got nails been bitten. You talk about Aberdeen when you talk about the supporters didn't come down, but you bet your boots they will be there for the final. They'll come down in numbers.
They've
for the
quite
final.
a lot today. They had quite a big
huge support today for Aberdeen. The only problem was Morton, which is not a criticism of Morton. It's just the stark realities of a fan base in Greenock.
Correct, and you've got to give Aberdeen fans credit for coming down today. A 12:15 kick-off. How difficult is that for them? They've got to be leaving Aberdeen about 8 o'clock in the morning, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think great credit to them. They've been supporting in great numbers. I always think it's difficult. I can understand why there's a certain amount of animosity between clubs in the north, northeast, the Highlands, when all of a sudden, whether it's a cup competition, Ruffy, or even a televised football game, suddenly they have to make that journey down, can't get the train down. No buses then have to go through hiring buses to get supporters there en masse.
I think apart from the cup games, I think people have to appreciate that these supports are coming down every fortnight. You know, they're travelling. I mean, there must be some expense that they're putting out compared to every other club.
Travelling a long way.
I mean, there's not as if there's that many. All right, Dundee's pretty near in Inverness, but apart from that, you know, you're still making dedicated support, you know, to make the effort, and quite rightly so. That's why I never ever complain when you hear somebody saying, "Oh, we want more tickets than them, we deserve more, we've got a bigger support than you," blah blah blah. These guys are travelling; they deserve every ticket they can get.
Dumbuya scored the goal for Inverness. It's 1-1 in that match, and of course Thistle still in the lead by that solitary goal, Robbie. As we fast approach full time, we will be hearing from John Hartson, Ian Durant, Steve McManus, and we will get predictions from all three of our pundits on the programme today with regards to Rangers and Celtic and Chelsea and Man United as well. Might as well get the full tilt from you guys to see what your thoughts are on it. Still some time left for dramatic late goals. That would be a really good point, I have to say, for Sunderland at West Ham. To be perfectly honest with you, look at Macca's face, Ruffy.
What's happened there, Macca?
Yeah, what's happened, Macca? Tell us.
They moved stadium.
Just the stadium, you think? Just the stadium?
Yeah.
You think it's just that?
Of course it is, yeah. It's so far. The stadium's so far away from the pitches, the atmosphere.
They've lost the atmosphere of the park,
Well, they've lost the atmosphere, and there's a lot of infighting because they're not allowed to stand up. They're sitting them down, and it's just it's
interesting you're mentioning that. I think the Premier League clubs in England are now going through a number of discussions because of Celtic's standing area. I think they're looking at it closely, looking at the success of it and analysing whether they put it to a vote at each individual club to get a safe standing area. And I think you know Liverpool's fans are going to be the most closely scrutinised in this, Ruffy, because since the Taylor report, grounds have changed. People want to be safe. They all remember Hillsborough, and rightly so. But I think even Liverpool fans are warming to it. You know, it's a safe standing area. And I think the one thing I would say to you, when you consider the Taylor report, Gordon, it was brought in because obviously stadiums were falling into disrepair, and also I think the other aspect of it, which I think may well be to the betterment of the game down there, is there were mistakes made at Hillsborough. It wasn't necessarily the fact of it was putting too many people into an area.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, there was serious situations that people were at risk in the stadiums. But I'm a great believer that if you can organise safe standing, then that's the way ahead. If you know that the areas that are there, the people can stand and they're not going to be knocked down or trampled or whatever, then by all means that's what needs
happening at West Ham, because if they have a standing area, everyone that wants to stand will go there. And the ones that they're fighting because some don't want to stand up and some are standing. That's but the ones that want to stand, go into a certain area, the atmosphere there. The other atmosphere will be good, and it'll be good for everyone. I think
we're going to have a long period of injury time, Ruffy, with regards to the match Partick Thistle as well. 9 minutes of it. Liam Lindsay was injured for quite a while. There was a worry about him. He was badly injured in a collision with Andrew Davis and Ryan Scully. So there's going to be a long period of extra time there. Not good for Ruffy, because obviously he still thinks Ross County are going to get the equaliser in that game, because Ruffy's glass, when it comes to Partick Thistle, is half empty. But there's still one goal ahead, Ruffy, so they're holding on. Could be 3 points here, vital. We'll get a report from Andrew McLean a little later on. I can tell you Burnley are 2-1 up, Ruffy, on Everton. Scott Arfield scoring the goal.
Yep, ex-Falkirk boy. Good. I always like to see boys doing well when they go down there. That's a big result for them. They're obviously, same as Partick Thistle, hovering about the bottom, and any 3 points they get is significant. But I mean, it's not just the win at Partick Thistle, it's where it takes them, psychologically. I know it's not a massive, but it's a leap, away from when you look at a league table and instead of your second bottom, you're four places up.
They're level 6th. If they get if Thistle get the win today, they go level 6th. So that's good. That's them moving right up the table. As I say, Kilmarnock can go sixth spot if they get the win, but they can, even with the draw, they still actually get into sixth spot.
Yeah, getting a lot of great messages which we'll try and read out on Facebook, and the reason why Mac is laughing is because we like to take, Ruffy knows we like to take the positive and the negative comments that come in on Facebook and Twitter, and when you get a Glasgow derby, an Old Firm match where Rangers and Celtic come together, the passions run high. Some people just lose a grasp of
reality.
Not so much reality. The word I was looking for was decency when it comes to putting your point across. So I'm going to have to paraphrase quite a few.
Ross County scores.
Would you believe it, Ruffy? Ross County, that is incredible.
We said before the game even started, we said, how late are they going to score the equaliser today? 95th minute.
And they've still got a minute left. They could get the winner.
Unbelievable.
Ruffy, I mean, my heart goes
not
out
for
to you.
me, nothing out for me, because it's to Alan Archibald and the players.
How many times has that happened?
It's
That's
incredible.
It's regular.
I mean, how many times you got to get a game? Six minutes.
Two to four fullbacks ran up the park.
Can I tell you something? It's the former Rangers and Birmingham player Chris Burke who scored
West
the
Ham,
goal.
Sunderland.
West Ham, Sunderland as well.
There you are.
That's a bad one for Davy
Believe
Moyes.
it. West Ham won,
what a great
Sunderland
result
0.
that is.
Are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that,
95th minute. That's incredible.
I know.
I mean, David Moyes talking about it. Winston Reid has popped up with the goal marker.
Captain, he's up there. He's good player. Get up. He must have fancied it and put the centre halves up.
Yep, so there you have it. Late drama. And on such results, sometimes managers' futures are decided.
Well, absolutely. We're saying that Sunderland might be happy with the point today, but to lose a goal like that's him sitting on 2 points at the bottom of the league. I mean, it's just not turning around for David Moyes, is it?
David, but delighted West Ham get a result.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Mark, some of the messages on Facebook, I'm going to have to really kind of edit them. When we give opinions on Rangers Celtic matches, this is where I think people. This is where I think people actually look at the whole situation and think
tinted wind glasses.
Yeah, absolutely. They agree with your opinion. They give you pelters. Arsenal 0, Middlesbrough 0. What about that one, Gordon?
Yeah, that's
a couple of points dropped.
Definitely, that's a surprise. Considering the form Arsenal have been in, I mean, I think they've won their last 6 or 7 league games in a row. And not to beat Middlesbrough at home, Middlesbrough are not doing badly, but they're near the bottom of the league.
But that's the kind of results that can cost you the league.
Stops you
winning the league.
That is what stops you,
Burnley 2, Everton 1. Great result for Burnley and Sean Dyche against an Everton side, Ruffy, that have been getting a fair bit of praise under Ronald Koeman.
Yeah, since he went there, he's sort of got them on a right good run, and particularly at home, was beginning to get them back on board again. But that's a bit of a hiccup.
Yeah, well, Everton losing today. I mean, they've only lost one league game this season as well. They don't. I mean, we talked about Tottenham not having lost any.
Yeah.
Everton have only lost 1 till today. That's their second defeat.
Well, I think Arsenal have only lost 1 in 7 months, and I think that was the first game of the season against Liverpool.
I understand that, but if you've got any aspirations to win the league, you've got to beat Middlesbrough at home.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's the points. They 2 points could cost them at the end of the season.
Yeah,
okay.
For you.
We will get a report from Firhill. Amazingly, Ruffy, whose glass is half empty, and you can understand why, because he thought 3 points for Alan Archibald. Alan Archibald, head in hands. Can't believe it. Ross County have got an equaliser. Absolutely unbelievable. We'll get a match report from there. We'll look at all the games and the full times coming up next, and of course, look ahead to the big 2 games tomorrow. Saturday football show. It's great to have you back with us, albeit surprisingly. So there's nothing worse, Macca, than the ball comes straight at you and you have to control it immediately. Frank McAvenny, Gordon Smith and Alan Ruff are here with me. Thank you very much for the Facebook messages, facebook.com/Peter Ruffy and @Peter Ruffy on Twitter. I'm going to put some of these questions to the panellists, good and bad, and try and keep it as nice as you possibly can. If you're a Celtic or a Rangers fan, or Chelsea or Manchester United, then put your point to the guys on, would you play with 2 up front, 3 up front? What would you do if you're a Rangers fan? What team would you like to see take to the field in the semi-final against Celtic? Of course, Morton, Aberdeen. It was Aberdeen who triumphed, and they find themselves in the final against either Celtic or Rangers. Now let's look at the full times across the country. Drama upon drama in the Premiership, and Ruffy predicted it as well. We haven't got an outright winner in either games. Inverness Caledonian Thistle 1, Kilmarnock 1, and Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 1. That match was delayed for a considerable amount of time because of an injury to Liam Lindsay, and then Ross County, Chris Burke pops up with the equaliser into the Championship in Scotland. Ayr 1, Queen of the South 0, Dundee United 2, Dumbarton 1, Dunfermline 1, Hibernian 3, and Falkirk 2, Wraith Rovers 4. And from the Championship into League 1, Airdrieonians 4, Queen's Park 1, Albion Rovers 0, Peterhead 1, Livingston 3, Alloa 1, Stenhousemuir 1, Brecon City 3, and Stranraer 1, East Fife 1. And into the Premier League in England, Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 0, Arsenal 0, Middlesbrough 0, Burnley 2, Everton 1, Hull City 0, Stoke City 2, Leicester City 3, Crystal Palace 1, Swansea 0, Watford 0, West Ham 1, Sunderland 0, and Liverpool against West Brom kicks off at 5:30, and then it's Manchester City against Southampton and Chelsea against Manchester United. After the break, I'll take you quickly through the main scores from the Scottish Cup second round as well. We'll also switch your attention to that Scottish League Cup semi-final, Rangers against Celtic. We'll get the thoughts of Gordon Smith, Frank McAvenny and Alan Ruff on that as well. And drama upon drama for Partick Thistle today. It looked as if they were heading for 3 points in that match against Ross County, but the late show with Chris Burke, once again we'll get Ruffy's thoughts on that. We will bring you the match report from Andrew McLean, who's at Firhill as well. So give us your thoughts on your team's performance today, and also anything else that's troubling you about your club or Scottish football. At Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy as well. Frank McAvenny is a happy man as I look at him right now, because it's the late show. Winston Reid pops up to score for his old side, West Ham United, who defeated Sunderland by a 1-0. More pressure for the Scot, David Moyes. Lots of things to talk about coming up next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny are here with me. I'll be reading out a few of your messages, and thank you very much to everyone, not only posting messages to us on Twitter and Facebook, but of course we meet a number of people who watch the show on a regular basis, very complimentary, and we do indeed appreciate your comments, kind comments and otherwise. We always like to get a gauge on what people don't like about the show, Ruffy. And we're doing okay at the moment. We'll read out some of your messages. We're going to go to Firhill because Ruffy was on a high. He was happy, he was chirpy, he was joining in with the show in a positive sense, and then his world just crashed around him because it looked as if he was going to get 3 points for Partick Thistle, and then Ross County popped up with an equaliser. Here's Andrew McLean with the details.
Partick Thistle won, Ross County won the full-time score here, and it was a late equaliser that ensured that both teams left with a point. The goal scoring was opened by Sean Welsh from the spot in the first half. Chris Doolan was fouled, and Welsh dispatched the penalty right down the middle. But it was Chris Burke who levelled for the away side out of absolutely nowhere, turned his man, ran into the box and low to the keeper's right-hand side. Ross County stealing a point here. However, the match may be overshadowed by a pretty serious-looking injury to Liam Lindsay, who was down for about 5 minutes before eventually being taken off on a stretcher. Partick Thistle won, Ross County won the full-time score here.
Yep, our thoughts with Liam Lindsay. You don't like to see any player going off with a serious injury, and it must have been pretty serious. I think, 7 or 8 minutes added on at the end, Ruffy?
Yeah, it's a shame because the young boy had come into the first team at the beginning of the season. Big raw boy, but obviously growing into it, and getting to grip. Scored last week with a header. So it's a shame. I hope it's nothing serious. Sometimes these things look worse than what they are, and let's hope that's the case.
Yep, I'm going to give a mention to a few people who watch the show. Hugh McElwraith, who's a big Rangers fan, watches the show. We're delighted. Obviously, he's asking our thoughts on Rangers' chances tomorrow. Of course, Gordon, as we tell everyone, as far as football's concerned, in an Old Firm game, anything can happen. It's going to be...
Absolutely. I mean, Rangers have got a chance, there's no doubt about it. It just depends how they play. Celtic have got some top players at the moment. Celtic have probably got the better group of players, the better team, and therefore I think Rangers have to make sure that they stop Celtic playing first and foremost. They make it difficult for Celtic and then try and capitalise on that and play their own game. If they don't stop Celtic playing in the way Celtic try to play, then Celtic should win the game.
Yeah, Robert Russell has sent us a message on Facebook as well. Rangers to win tomorrow, maybe by 1 goal or 2. You can post a message to us, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. We will read out some of your tweets as well to get your thoughts on the big game tomorrow. Who's going to win, Rangers or Celtic? Who would you like to see start the game? We're going to talk about it in depth. We'll hear from John Hartson and Ian Durant. We'll also hear from Steve McManus, who was our guest last night on our extended Sports Week programme. And of course, we'll get the thoughts of these guys and who they think should be playing, who they think will win the game. Yes, we'll get that prediction as well. And we're going to look in depth at some of the results from today. The last gasp 94th minute winner from Winston Reid for West Ham against Sunderland, a body blow for David Moyes. We'll discuss the Premier League down in England, including Chelsea, Man United. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. Aberdeen will be in the League Cup final to face either Rangers or Celtic. Who do you think is going to win on that one? David Cunningham has sent us a tweet saying, hope it's Rangers by 2-0. We were running a poll which has still got about 30 minutes left. Who will win the game tomorrow between Rangers and Celtic? At the moment I think it's 73% reckon Celtic will win it. You can go on to the Twitter at Peter and Ruffy and give us your thoughts on that too. Today it was Inverness 1, Kilmarnock 1, Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 1. In the end, Killie just couldn't hold on to their advantage. Gordon, it was Inverness getting a goal there to share the points.
Well, yeah, exactly, Peter, and they were affected, as I was saying during it, while they were sitting 1-0 up, getting towards the 90th minute. I'm saying if they win today, they go 6 in the top 6. And as it happens now, they're not even in the top 8 because the two other goals that scored changed things. Ross County stayed above them. Inverness getting that equaliser meant they stayed above Kilmarnock, so Kilmarnock are sitting in ninth spot.
We missed you last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. I know you did miss them.
I know.
The Scottish Cup second round matches. Let me take you through some of the main results there. Arbroath 3, Stirling University 1. Stirling had a man sent off. Bankside 2, Formerton 2. Both these teams had a man sent off in a feisty affair. Berwick Rangers 2, Hoyt Royal Albert 3, Bonnyrigg Rose 2, Cove Rangers 1, Brora Rangers 0, Clyde 2. Good result for Barry Ferguson's side. BSC Glasgow 0, Beath 1, Bucky Thistle 1, Gretna 2008 1, Cowdenbeath 0, East Kilbride 1, and East Kilbride were down to 10 men in that match. Cumbernauld Colts 2, Forest Mechanics 2, Edinburgh City 0, Forfar 0, Gallifrey 0, Gallifrey 0, Elgin City 4, Huntly 0, Spartans 2, Linlithgow Rose 0, Stirling 3, Preston Athletic 0, Montrose 3, and Wick Academy 4, Whitehill Welfare 1. That's the pick of the Scottish Cup second round. Once it gets to the third round, suddenly it'll start to gather a little bit more pace and I think interest for the greater football public. But that's your quick summary of the second round of the Scottish Cup. But I think we've got to pay tribute to Aberdeen. Macca, Derek McInnes' side, albeit Morton really put up a good fight. And of course the question over that first goal, which I thought was offside before Rooney had put the ball in the back of the net. But they went on to score another one. McLean scoring from close range, and they're now in the final.
Well, the pressure was on Aberdeen, Peter, because Morton, nobody expected them to do anything. Nobody expected them to get to the final. So if they won, they were great, and Aberdeen were hopeless and all that kind of stuff. But Aberdeen went out. They didn't do well in the first half. Morton didn't capitalise on it. They should have scored maybe Kitongo. He'd have wanted to have. And any other day of the week, he'd have put that away. But it was one of them, they'd done a professional job in the second half. They came out, got a goal. Whether it's, I know it's offside, but these things level out in football. You get the breaks. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But Aberdeen done a professional job. They're in the final. They'll sit back and they'll watch the game tomorrow, and I don't think they'll be too bothered who they play, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and again, that's the key to it when you're talking about players, good players when they get that opportunity. Jai Kitongo is a young man building his reputation, getting more and more experience, and he'll know himself. He'll be in the dressing room or he'll be on his way home now, talking to his dad, Jose Kitongo, just saying to himself, I should have scored, Dad.
Yeah, he will be saying that because his dad might be the one that's saying that to him. But he played it. The keeper actually did dive the wrong way and stopped it with his legs, so he's maybe considered unlucky in that respect. He had some great moves in the second half. I've got to say, I was impressed with him. I haven't seen much of him before, but I thought he looked a very good player. Looks as if he could fit into a Premier League side without doubt, because he gave Aberdeen problems and he was taking people on. He's got a great dribbling ability. His dad had that as well. And I think Morton, as Frank said, they deserve a lot of credit today. Aberdeen are the bigger side. Aberdeen are through to another final, and they'll think they can compete in the final. I don't think they'll have any real worries about who they play, Rangers or Celtic. But I have to say, Morton deserve a lot of credit for today. They've shown that they have risen. Jim Duffy has got them playing a very good standard, and it's a great tussle in that championship at the moment. And obviously Morton are sitting on 12 points, but they've got a game in hand now. If they can win that game in hand and go into 15 points, they can push their way up and challenge for a playoff place, because he's certainly got them playing some good football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking at the other results in that championship, and Hibs suddenly hit the front with a 3-point advantage, although Dundee United, as we expected, are suddenly in the mix in second place in the championship, Ruffy.
Yeah, well, obviously after the results today, and the surprise one was Falkirk. I couldn't see Falkirk getting beat, but I couldn't see them losing 4 goals. But apart from that, I think Neil Lennon will be happy that he kept 11 men on the park, and he'll be saying to his players, this is what happens when we can control our discipline. We will win games with 11 men finishing the game. But I think you're right, Dundee United, since they've got the boy Andrew in there, he seems to be pulling the strings, and it looks as if Dundee United possibly could be Hibs' biggest threat as the season goes on. But we'll just have to wait and see, because some of these results, particularly Ayr United one with Queen of the South, were absolutely motoring, and then obviously they lost a couple of games. But I think it's still going to be tight. As far as Morton's concerned, I'm sure Jim Duffy will be trying to thump into them to try and get a positiveness out of today and push on, because if they were to go on, I don't say they can't go on a run, but 4th spot isn't in that performance today shouldn't be dismissed. He should be saying to his players, let's benefit from that game today and let's try and push on in the league.
Yeah. I think you're right about the surprise results in that respect, because Falkirk have been on a really good run, but you take Queen of South. If Queen of South were winning every game, then all of a sudden they 2 draws in a row, now 2 defeats in a row. They're blown. They could have been sitting in a comfortable position, and the score lines they're getting. So they've just dropped out a little bit, and Dundee United have moved into that position. But Falkirk is probably the surprise of the day.
Yeah.
It's that form they were in, Peter.
But should we be paying more of the credit to Wraith Rovers and what Gary Locke has achieved there?
Yeah, I mean, he had them going. I mean, at once, even earlier in the season, they were on a good run as well, and then they seemed to just peter off a little bit, and then that today maybe gives another example of they are a team who are very difficult to play against. There's a team who are capable of winning any game in that division.
Yep, and Brecon City out in front. Livingston get the win against Alloa, so it's all very tight there. It's Brecon, it's Livingston, it's Alloa, and then Albion Rovers as well after their slip up against Peterhead. And suddenly, Ruffy, as I look at Peterhead, they're on the march, 3rd from bottom now, no longer bottom of the table. I can see that surge coming for not too many. I don't know if there's too many teams that have been bottom after about 8 games and then gone on to win a division.
No.
There's a great question. Don't ask me to answer it, Ruffy.
Well, we'll all be hoping it's not Peterhead anyway, because
why is that, Ruffy?
Because you picked them. And if they do go on that run you're talking about, we'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah. Very good point, Ruffy. Okay, let's switch our attention to the big one, which is a game that I think everyone is looking forward to, because there are so many different permutations. Give me your start. Sorry to throw this to you, Maka, but I think we're now at the point where we can start to look at the starting 11 on it. I mean, I'll help you with it in a sense. Scotland's going to be in goal.
I think the biggest decision will be if he's fit. The centre halves. If
Simonovic.
Simonovic is fit, but it's whether they'll play Turi or not. I think if he's got a calf strain, Simonovic will play with Sviatchenko.
Right, so then it's Tierney and Lustig.
Yeah.
Is it Brown and Beaton?
I don't know about Beaton because he was awful that night, and I think Brown, I would. Brown anyway. Brown will play in there. Rodgick.
You weren't thinking of not suggesting Brown was going to.
No, Rodgick would play in there. I think. Yeah. Whether he wants to put a bit more pace.
Would be Armstrong, do you think?
Armstrong sit in the middle.
No, I think it's McGregor. I think
so.
I'll go with McGregor because I think McGregor gives them a more dynamic pace in the middle of the park. Absolutely, he transformed the pace of that team the other night. There, Beaton. It was like it was like a one-stroke cycle. Must have been much a different game for me then. It's well, I didn't see that with him. I thought he kept everything square. He keeps everything tidy. Don't get me wrong, but I think Armstrong's more. He runs more. He runs through up to the striker a lot more than what McGregor would. So who's your wide players then?
I would maybe if he's Forrest was off the boil the night, so if he's going to stick with him, then he's got to step up this game.
Yeah.
Or Roberts, it wouldn't mean a day. Sinclair's going to play, and I think he'll play Dembele.
Ruffy, do you disagree with that?
I thought McGregor did give a wee bit of injection. Maybe that's because Beaton was so poor. It looked that way, but certainly he's got a lot of energy, you know, and I think obviously Celtic will identify that if Rangers have got a wee bit problem, it's with players running at them, you know, at pace, you know, so he would come into that category. I think Forrest and Sinclair will be wide. Brown, Rogic, although he's a hit and miss for me.
Who?
Rogic.
Well, I think he's different class up to
I think at this level, I think it was because it was Borussia he struggled, but coming back obviously into the Scottish game, he has got a wee bit of something about him going forward, and I think in this game, I think he could be an asset.
Gordon?
Yeah, I think Celtic will go roughly what the team you're saying, but I think he might leave Toure out and play Simonovic, because I think more likely the Rangers are going to have Kenny Miller through the middle, so they're not going to need a lot of height and strength in there to compete. They're going to need fluency in that position at the back, so I think he might play that. I think Forrest will stay in the team because he's been in form. Maybe he didn't play so well the other night. It'll be him and Sinclair and definitely Dembele up front. Brown, Beaton, if he's fit again, he probably will come in. I think he'll come back in the team, and Rogic in front.
Okay, it'll be interesting. You can give us your thoughts on the starting 11. As far as Rangers, I'm going to go to you first on this, Gordon. What's your team?
I think it's difficult at the back. It depends whether you said that maybe Danny Wilson's injured. You were saying that if Wilson's fit, I think he'll be in the team. You know, so the back four they've been playing of late, and I think that, you know, in midfield is where the big question mark is, because obviously you know, they've had changes in there to start with, but I think they need legs in there. They need people that are mobile, because that's what you got to do to compete with this Celtic team. You need people that can run. So I think it'll be Halliday, I think Holt, and potentially Windass if he's available.
I think
Windass available. I think he'll play him because he's looking good so far. And I think then up front, Waghorn, Miller and Mackay.
Okay, Ruffy, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think that'll be far away. I just want everybody to tell me what's happened to Senderos. He's not injured, is he? He's not been playing.
I think he's just left out now.
Yeah, surprising, isn't it? You know, the build-up that he was given when he came, the experience and everything. I think he did pick up the injury, obviously, against Celtic, but I thought he'd have been pushing his way back in there with the experience that he's got. But
he may have to, if Wilson's not playing, he may have
to bring him in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as far as the team selection is concerned. I think Senderos might be a wee bit away as far as the injury is concerned.
Do you think he'll play Hill? But the pace that Celtic's got, I mean, I don't.
I think
it's a strange one, Peter.
A major dilemma.
Yeah,
that's his choice. Whether he goes with that experience. Hill will definitely play if Wilson's not playing.
Do you think he should go 3 at the back? Because I thought he would have went 3 at the back the last time, and he's not done that. I don't know if he'd go. Why would he not go 3 at the back?
I know,
to compensate that.
I think he's just got a style of play. He does talk about that, sticking to, because even at times when they're winning games and even winning 1-0. He doesn't change the team in order even to make it tight and just hold out. He keeps attacking and keeps scoring, because he says that is his philosophy on the game.
First thing you've got to do is stop Celtic from playing. That's what you've got to try and do. And I think 3 at the back's the only way that he can do that.
Yeah.
You know, to combat Dembele with the pace he's got and the movement and the ability he's got. I think it would be strange not to play 3 at the back.
Would 3 at the back not give Dembele more space to run into?
Not really, will it?
Down the channel.
No, you've got 3. You've got 3. 1 goes with you. There's 3 against 1, really, isn't it? But somebody's got to watch for Sinclair coming, and
we're going to give it closer to you guys giving us a prediction on it. Earlier this week, I caught up with a former Celtic striker as well, used to Old Firm games, scored in a few as well. John Hartson gave us his view on the big match.
Well, it'll be Celtic. Why? Because they've got better players. I think they're in the ascendancy. They're in a good moment. Rangers have a week to prepare. They can get on the training ground. They can gather all their thoughts. Mark can try different sort of formations. He's got time to work this week. The players can get over a few knocks that they've picked up in recent weeks. Kenny Miller, of course, scored his 100th goal. Well done for Kenny. I knew what that meant for me to get 100 goals for Celtic. But I just think Celtic, overall, the better team, the team that have got a bit more flair, the likes of Dembele, Scott Sinclair, Forrest on one wing, Sinclair, and they look very, very strong. They've got Lee Griffiths to come off the bench, and he's chomping at the bit to get a game. It's a semi-final, red-hot atmosphere, as they always are. I love these games. I scored goals in these games, and this is where you really endear yourself to the crowd. The top players, the best players in that Celtic team will come to the fore, and the Rangers team. They need several of their players. They need 7 or 8 of their players to play at their maximum, and Celtic obviously need to do the same. But I see it. I think you'd be, unless you were a hardened, staunch Rangers man, or you've got blinkers on, you don't see anything else outside of that, they will only be the people that think Rangers can win.
Yeah, John Hartson there talking about unless you're a die-hard Rangers fan. I don't know any other type of Rangers or Celtic fan who's die-hard. It's Rangers to win by blah blah blah, or it's Celtic to win with this one. Yeah. Obviously, there's a percentage of people who look at it logically, and we've assessed it ad nauseum on the fact of the strength of the teams, but it doesn't always work out that way. Can I suggest to you, Gordon, that the key issue here is how Mark Warburton sets that team out to play? Yeah,
that definitely is. It's the team he picks, how he sets it out, and also in terms of how the players perform on the park. Because once they cross that line, it's down to them too. They won't need to be motivational, because you're motivated for these games. You know what's required. You go out there ready to perform. But you can never tell. Old Firm games, I mean, I'm totally shocked by them in my time, even having played them. I think I played them at 15, and you never know how they're going to go, because sometimes you go on as a favourite and it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you go on as the underdog and it works totally the opposite. So you're never quite sure, and it's hard to determine exactly what makes the difference on the day.
Well, at that point, can you tell me how many games that you went into and you thought, well, a Stonewall certainty to win it and you lost? Is there any that stick in your mind?
Definitely one stuck in my mind was the one we lost with Celtic won the league at Celtic Park, and we were 2-1 up when they had a man sent off, and we were 2-1 up. And I think, looking back now, I think what could have happened there, and it could only be one thing, that we thought, that's us won it now, because Celtic had 10 men.
But back then, Gordon, was it golf? Was it golf?
No, it wasn't a huge golf. No,
I think it's a bit wider.
I think we were when Johnny Dog got sent off.
No,
were we not?
No.
What was the score?
No, I think Johnny Doyle got sent off. Celtic scored, and then you equalised, because you equalised from the kick-off. David Cooper took it up the left. Robert Russell put the ball in the back of the net.
I thought we were winning when he got sent off. No, he weren't.
No. Anyway,
so
about the golf.
It wasn't a big golf, no. But as I say, the games you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell how the game was going to go before you played in it. It was just one of these things. You went out and did your best.
Do you agree with that, Macca, that Gordon said? Was there a game that you were involved in, you thought you were going to win, and then you didn't?
Yeah, no.
No?
No, when I thought we were going to win, we did win.
You should have thought that every time. You should have thought it every time.
No, I was just about to say, God, now I realise why there are people actually sending abusive messages to us on Facebook.
No, it's one of these situations. Of course, there's times you go. I mean, I was fortunate. I only played a few times, half a dozen times, 7 times against Rangers, and I done all right out of the games.
Yeah.
The one loss I got was the 5-1 game at Ibrox, but to be fair to myself, I scored and broke my arm, got to hospital. By the time I got to hospital, we were 3-1 down.
Yeah.
It was 1-0 when I went off, so I'll take that as a win.
Only a selfish striker could think that way.
I did my job.
Okay, here's a man that we're about to hear from now that could strut his stuff in the middle of the park. One of the finest players of his generation in the middle of the park. I think we'd love to see someone like Ian Durrant being available these days for Scotland, but he was in the studio to talk to us, and he gave us his thoughts on the Old Firm match.
From where I'm looking, I think you'll have to be a bit more disciplined in terms of back four, keep them intact. The Old Firm games now, if you're an underdog, now anything can happen, but the main thing in the Old Firm game is to stay in the game. Now, don't be chasing your tail, so you stay in the game and stay as long as you can, which they done last year. Now, they stayed in the game, and Celtic put a lot of pressure on the second half and they come away, albeit winning penalties, but they stayed the pace with Celtic. If everything goes to plan and they get a bit of luck in the day, I can see Rangers sneaking it. I know it'll be hard, but I can just see them maybe sneaking it I think that they will again, underdogs, but I think that when you're talking about the Old Firm game, I don't think that comes into the equation, and I can see Rangers maybe sneaking a wee 2-1 victory.
See, that's the key to it all. Every player that we chat to, Ruffy, has talked about just staying in the game. Once it goes away from you, and you mentioned the fact that when Celtic were 3-1 up, and then eventually Rangers, lose a man, then it just becomes almost impossible. But if you can keep it within 0-0, 1-1, people, you can go anyway then you can get, I always think you can get what we call the Barry Mackay howitzer. Somebody can step up and think 35 yards out, why not? Bang! And suddenly a Celtic or a Rangers player is lauded for forever and a day.
Yeah, I keep repeating myself. I don't think we can appreciate the importance of scoring that first goal. You score that first goal and the whole place erupts. The whole place just lifts. If it's your side that scored the goal, the supporters are right behind you, and then the apprehension on the other side is there. And it takes you 10-15 minutes to get yourself to recover for the goal that you've lost, and then you've got to hope somebody comes up with something spectacular to bring you back in the game. Because we all know, and it's an old cliche, if you go 1 up, the next goal generally should be the winner. So you're under pressure every time the other team are attacking, going for that second goal. And I think if it's Rangers, you'll be worrying about the ball coming into the box, because everybody's identified, balls into the box, they don't defend particularly well. So corners, free kicks are going to be under pressure. But in saying that, with Celtic, as we've noticed, if you can get at Celtic, they can be got at as well. So Rangers will be hoping that they have Kerry Miller, people from midfield going forward, and if you score a worldly like Mackay did, these are the kind of things that win you games.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think that if the best the Celtic play, if Celtic can play at the best in Rangers, then Celtic should win. But it never happens like that, Peter. And it's but the Old Firm games. I know you keep saying it's an old cliche, but it never goes according to the way it should. I mean, the semi-final, the last time we played at Hampden, everyone thought Celtic was going to wipe the floor with them. And
Did you? Do you honestly think that, Macca? I
thought Celtic was going to win. Yeah, I thought they were going to win convincingly. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
With Ronnie Dyle in charge?
I'm talking about the players. The players there were good enough to beat Rangers on the day. Individually, they were better players.
Yeah.
Whether it's a manager or not.
Can we keep going back to that game? Over 90 minutes, it was 2 each. There wasn't a winner over 90 minutes. There may have been a winner in penalty, and Celtic had chances to win that game.
I know that, but you cannot say that Rangers didn't deserve to win that game.
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is, it wasn't.
Roberts missed the sitter.
But that's what we're talking about. Things like that win you the game, and then obviously Rangers regrouped after that miss and got the equaliser.
Yeah, but I think the difference now with this whole situation in this game, and this is where I think it's going to be interesting to see how you see it panning out, is in that last game at Hampden when it finished 2-2. Yeah, you make some valid points, Ruffy, but the mere fact that Celtic were able to get back into it was amazing on the basis that Rangers played the better football. I think you're right, Mac. I think Rangers deserve to win the game, and as one former Rangers player mentioned to me, nobody made anything of the fact, because of the trouble afterwards, nobody made anything of the fact that Rangers threw away the Scottish Cup. Yeah. They lost to Hibs, in a mad 10 minutes at the end. Yeah. They lost that game, and now this is a different game, because off the back of the Celtic one at Celtic Park, Gordon, everybody's talking about Joey Barton having, Scott Brown in his pocket, or I'm going to be the best player in the league. I'm going to be, who's Scott Brown? I'm better than him. Suddenly people forgot, wait a minute, what about the other 10 characters who are playing for Rangers who contribute greatly? Yeah. What about the other 10 at Celtic? It was a sideshow.
I know. Yeah. The other thing about the semi-final was the fact that once that game was finished and Rangers got through, that was almost like the end of their season. See if you check out the results after that. Rangers just dipped. It was almost like they felt that day they had achieved, that was their goal. They got promotion, I think, about a week later, or about that week. Yeah. But they won that game and they through to the final. But see if you look at it, their form and their results was very poor. They went to the final as favourites, but not in the terms of the form they were in. They weren't in good form at all. So this time their form's just beginning to pick up a little bit. But they can't see this as a one-off game. When you're in the Premier Division, you get 4 Old Firm games. This will be their 5th one. There could be another one as well later on in the cup. Who knows? Yeah. But this is, you have to perform and then keep performing after. The players have to realise what it's like to beat Rangers or Celtic. You're expected every week to perform at a level, and you cannot drop below that, or else you just give things away, because the opposition you're playing against are always going to be highly motivated.
There must have been a pressure on them to get back to the league, and when they've done it, there must have been such a relief. That maybe there's been a dip, and obviously with the final, that all combines to.
It's that whole thing.
You can't have a dip in the Scottish Cup final. You've got to look at it and think to yourself, the final.
The defeat in the Scottish Cup final. I mean, they defeat the Scottish Cup final, and it's just one of these.
They couldn't lift it again. They achieved their goal.
I think this is great because as Lee Wallace mentioned, and we heard from him earlier in the programme, this is a Rangers side suddenly just, the 5-1 was hard to take, but they're starting to get a bit of form. Celtic's form, nobody's standing in their way in the league. A lesson was dealt out to them in midweek, Ruffy. Now they have to try and bounce back from that, but it's not as if they're coming into the game with bad form in the league. They know that they're head and shoulders above most in the league, so you've got this intriguing battle now where people are saying, if Celtic players stand up to the test, they'll win it. But as Macca mentioned there, and we've all been talking about, it's how Mark Warburton lines his side up to try and either pick Celtic off, or indeed if he plays the same way at Hampden, a wide open pitch, then all bets are off. We could be on it could be a 4-3, 4-4 extra time penalties this one.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Mark Warburton handles the game, because obviously 5-1's a massive result in an Old Firm game, and fair, I don't care who you are, that memory's still going to be there, although you should always look to the future and not look behind you. But if Celtic were to score early on, the first thing that's going to snap in your mind is 5-1. Do you know what I mean? You're just human, you just go, Celtic scored the first 10 minutes. Here we go again. So then you need strong guys in your team, experienced players in your team to say, look, it's not going to happen. That's just a goal. We can come back for that. And that's why you look at individuals in your team, to respond to that. It can happen to Celtic as well. I'm not just saying Rangers. If Celtic were to lose a goal in the back of being well beaten against Borussia, if they were to lose an early goal, then wee bits of doubt would start snapping in there as well.
Who's your match winner?
For me, Sinclair. Sinclair for me.
Yeah, if Celtic, the belly would probably be the match winner in that respect.
And in a Rangers sense?
Rangers sense, I would say Kenny Miller could just make a name for himself when he's already done that, his reputation, but he could be the one that just having played for both sides, be the key player for Rangers.
Ruffy, a Rangers player?
I think Wycombe has got something to offer. I think we're all forgetting about the rich vein of form he was in last year before he got the injury. Okay, he's come back and he's just finding his way, but I think he's the kind of player who could trouble Celtic if he's on his game.
Macca, Rangers are a Celtic player that could win this match.
I think you've got to, Gordon, I think you've got to look at Sinclair. I think he could be the key. I think his pace, energy and his ability to finish has brought something new to Celtic that they obviously didn't have years gone by, but the pace is just, it frightens the life out of defenders.
Rangers?
I don't know. I mean, I'm for Rangers, I like O'Halloran, but he's not going to get a game. I don't know why the manager's not playing him, but.
So there's no point in mentioning him.
No, Wycombe, I'll go for a striker. Go for a striker. Wycombe, I always think strikers can. I think they can make a big impact in games. So
it's 2 quick points here before we come back after the break. I like Craig Thompson as a referee. I think he's got a sensible head on him to keep the whole thing calm. I like the fact that Mark. In fact, Brendan Rodgers mentioned as well the need for everyone just to keep a calm head on this. Just to, both sets of fans go to the game, act with a bit of respect and dignity and decency, because you want to be talking about the football. You want to be talking about all the positive things on the park.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, but it's hard to get that because there is an element of people that don't see it that way. They're just like fanatical and. And they don't think about acting in a sensible manner, do they? They just want to get their point across, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing about it. There are some great bits of banter. There are some great banners which I think are humorous, and I think when that comes out, I think it's everything that you love about Glasgow banter and rivalry. We're not against rivalry. We're just against stupidity and people who abuse others. But let's hope we're talking about the positives. If you are going to the game, get along there with your friends. Stay out of trouble. stay safe, enjoy the match. If it doesn't go your way, go home safely as well. We always say that. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk, we'll get predictions from these guys, and we'll go back over all the full-time scores for you as well. Join us if you can. Ball showed just two Premiership matches this afternoon, both of them ending in a draw, 1-1 between Inverness and Kilmarnock and Partick Thistle and Ross County. Of course, there was a worrying moment in the match at Firhill because Liam Lindsay got caught in a challenge with a couple of players, and there was a long delay where the medical team were just checking him to make sure he was okay. I think he was taken to hospital as a precaution, and of course it was a question that Andrew McLean asked Alan Archibald at the end of the game.
I'm hoping it's just precautionary. He'd pain in his neck right away, and I think nowadays they just take every precaution and get him away. He's away to hospital, so that's as far as I'm aware, that's all we know.
Was he unconscious?
No, I don't think so. I think they're saying at half now just a wee nudge on him, and he's going one way and our goalie's coming the other way, and they've clattered each other, so fingers crossed he's okay.
Yeah, it's always a worry, especially if you've got a little pain as well. Ruffy, you've got to check better, especially in the neck area as well. It's better to get the scan and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, neck and head. We saw a lot of players who have had head injuries been out for 5 or 6 months. So yeah, let's hope that precautionary more than anything else. Just get it seen to immediately, and then they can assess the damage and work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's look at the scores that I mentioned. Let's look at the Premiership first of all. As I mentioned, up at the Tulloch Stadium, it ended 1-1 as well between Inverness and Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock were in the lead in that match, and then pegged back by a Richie Foran side, and Partick Thistle 1, Ross County 1. So that's how it finished in the Premiership. Let's have a look at the table to see how that affects things. Of course, the semi-finals reduced the playing card today. Celtic still out in front. Aberdeen 4 points behind them, having played a game more. Hearts tucked in a point behind that, and then Rangers. And at the bottom end, Partick Thistle with that point, still ahead of Dundee. Then Hamilton and Motherwell in a clutch of teams on 10 points. Into the Championship, where some of the results today changed things a wee bit in the Championship. Ayr 1, Queen of the South 0, Dundee United 2, Dumbarton 1, Dunfermline 1, Hibernian 3, and Falkirk 2, Wraith Rovers 4. So back to winning ways for Neil Lennon's Hibernian side. Not too many people, I thought, would have been predicting Peter Houston, who was sent to the stand in the defeat against Wraith Rovers. Good win for Gary Lockside. Here's the table in the Championship. Hibernian out in front, but Dundee United capitalising on the slip-ups. Wraith Rovers are in the mix, just going ahead of Falkirk in goal difference. And at the bottom, it's a big job for Jack Ross. St Mirren still not out of touch with Dumbarton and Dunfermline there as well. A look at League One and the results there this afternoon. Of course, let's not forget Scottish Cup second round. A lot of matches taking place there, but in League One it was Airdrie 4, Queen's Park 1, Albion Rovers 0, Peterhead 1, Livingston 3, Alloa 1, Stenhousemuir 1, Brecon City 3, and Stranraer 1, East Fife 1. That's covering all the Scottish games. A look at the Premier League in England. There was an early kick-off today. It finished Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 0, Arsenal held to a 0-0 with Middlesbrough, Burnley 2, Everton 1, Hull City 0, Stoke City 2, Leicester City 3, Crystal Palace 1, Swansea 0, Watford 0, West Ham 1, Sunderland 0, and Liverpool against West Brom is ongoing at the moment. It's 0-0. Manchester City against Southampton tomorrow. Chelsea, Manchester United also. So with that in mind, before I get your prediction, Lance, before you walk out of this studio, it's always good to give a prediction and then close the programme so that we can't read out any other messages, Maka. Chelsea against Manchester United. How do you see it going? What sort of reception do you think Jose will get at Stamford Bridge?
I think he'll get a great reception. I really do.
Yeah?
I think it'll be. I don't think he'll get a great reception from from the owner, but I think the fans, you know, they've been there since the starting. Let's be honest, he changed that club around. He made them into the winners that they are, and so I think he'll get a great reception. I really do, and then that'll be it. And I think Jose could maybe sneak a win there. I think he can get a result there.
I think so. I think Chelsea will beat them. I do. I think the Chelsea players will be fired up because a lot of them didn't like Jose, so they want to.
But a lot of the players are not going to play it, are they?
Well, Diego Costa is the main guy at the moment for Chelsea, and he didn't go on that well with Jose, I don't think, finally. So I think Costa's the player that have real problems stopping, and I think Chelsea will win 1-0 or 2-1.
There you go.
Yeah, Liverpool have just scored 1-0.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think he'll get a good reception. I think he'll enjoy every minute of it. I don't think he'll get a win. I think Chelsea will come good and win 2-1.
There you go.
Okay, and of course I've got to ask you about the Old Firm game, but the reason why I'm not going to ask you right now is because I always like to read out positive and negative messages. Archie Murray has sent us a tweet saying never mind about who needs to change or what's going to be the score. He just said, when are you going to change those daft polo shirts you all wear? We're not, we're sticking with them.
Quite right.
It's just absolutely, we love them, Micah, don't we, Archie?
No, we don't. We don't like them. We're getting new ones.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday we were getting them.
Yeah, we're sticking with them. We really like them now, by the way.
I love them.
And can I just say to you something that I'm having tweets and messages from people saying, my wife's a huge fan of the programme. Is there any chance she can have one of the polo shirts?
Yes,
so there you are.
used to Fitz used to a lot better because
there's no point. Our producer has said there's no point in giving Ruffy's polo shirt away because he never washes it.
That's the one you want.
Superstitious.
Yeah. He's only going to wash it when Partick Thistle hang on to it.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. Okay. Listen, just before we go to your predictions, lads, Aberdeen are in the final. They defeated Morton by 2-0. Here's what Kenny McLean made of it.
The start we had was what we wanted. You know, that's what we spoke about, a fast start, and we done that. We started really well, as you say. We had the woodwork a couple of times with a lot of chances, with a lot of corners, putting pressure on Morton. And I think when the goal didn't come, it was just about being patient, and I think we done that well. Start the second half was a bit scrappy, you know, it was a wee bit not much in the game, but when we got the goal, as I say, I think we controlled it after that, and we showed our qualities. And as I say, when the second goal went in, I think that put the nail in the coffin a wee bit. You know, I think late on is that you realise you're coming back to hand, and you know it'll be bouncing when we come back here. So we'll get something to look forward to. And as I say, we set our stalls out at the start of the season. We know what we want to do. We want to get to finals of cups. We want to win cups. That's what we want to do at this club. That's the ambition of the fans, the club, the players. You know, that's the mentality we've got to win stuff. And you know, when we come back here, whoever's out in that pitch, you know, whoever's going to play part, everybody will be behind them. We'll be confident.
And Maka, just listening to Kenny McLean, you can understand exactly what he's talking about. You know, it doesn't matter how you get there. Semi-finals sometimes can be turgid. Just get there to the final.
I think it's a lot harder to get. When I get beat a couple of times in semi-finals, it's horrible, Peter. So it doesn't matter how you get to the final. It's it's hard getting beat in the final, I know, but the semi-finals are a lot worse. So I think Aberdeen, as Kenny says, I don't think they started the way they wanted to, because I thought Morton were a better team in the first half, but they got there, Peter, and that's, you know, the best teams come. Aberdeen were a better team and they came to the top of the day and they got through. No matter how they got there, they got through. There was a lot of disappointment down in Greenock, but a lot of joy in Aberdeen, and they won't care who they meet, to be honest with you.
And forgive me for this, and I hate to be dismissive of a smaller club, but as a spectacle for the final, suddenly, whether it's Rangers or Celtic, you're playing Aberdeen, it's going to be a huge affair, Gordon, for the sponsors, for everyone, for the, you know, they want to see a gala final with a packed stand.
Correct, it's going to be a big match now, there's no doubt about that. Aberdeen are a big side, and they love coming down to Glasgow and winning things in Glasgow. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The Aberdeen fans, they'll not care whether they're beating Rangers or Celtic, as long as they win it. They're going to have an enjoyable day from it. So I think that's going to make it, as you say, a huge match. There'll be a full crowd as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Aberdeen Celtic, it'll be a good final.
So what's your prediction?
Maka. Before we get Maka out of here with security.
No, I just think the guys have touched on the semi-finals. I think the most important thing as a player, you're getting a medal. You know, the disappointing and getting beaten in a semi-final must be absolutely horrendous. It'll be horrendous for the Morton boys, but it's good when you walk away after that 90 minutes and you've got something to show for it.
Well, I lost one semi-final. I lost playing for Kilmarnock against Dundee in the semi-final, and I was 19 at the time, and I was absolutely gutted. You're just sick when you lose a semi-final.
I lost it against Aberdeen at Dundee. Up at Dundee, we played it at Dundee, so you can play the semi-finals up, you know. So there you go.
You can, but not if you've signed a contract with Hampden. Maka, who's going to win and why? Briefly.
Well, I think Sinclair will be a difference, and I think he'll score, and Celtic will win by 2 goals.
Okay, Celtic to win by 2 goals. Gordon, give us your thoughts.
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think there's a lot of things can influence it, and we don't know what they're going to be yet. But I think if I just to predict right now, I would say Celtic will win 3-2.
I think it'll be a lot tighter than 5-1. I can see, like Gordon, it been really, really close, and everybody waiting till the very end for the match winner. I think it'll be 2-1 Celtic.
Okay, and is this and sometimes you mentioned it, the semi-final before the final, you can't take your eye off the ball. Is the winner of this the winner of the League Cup, or is that just for another day?
It's not necessarily, no. I think it's still wide open whoever wins this game tomorrow, because Aberdeen can raise their game on the day.
Yep, okay. Thanks to you guys. It's been an afternoon where it started off with not a lot of goals. We were wondering where the goals were going to come from. In the end, it was a share of the spoils right across the Premiership and the two matches that were played 1-1 apiece in both those games. Congratulations to Aberdeen. They are in the final of the League Cup. Will it be Celtic or Rangers tomorrow? Go to the game, enjoy the game, act responsibly, show a bit of respect for the opposite fans, and cheer your team, and then go home safely. From Ruffy, from Gordon Smith, from Frank McAvenny, and from myself, Peter Martin. Join us on Monday night at 7 o'clock when we'll assess the fallout from Aberdeen against Morton and Rangers Celtic. Good night.